Please rise if you wish for the invocation and the pledge. Dear God, tonight we are grateful that in our county, 69% of voters participated in choosing our next leaders and deciding whether proposals put to the electorate should be approved or not. This engagement is critical to our form of government being successful. Some of us are happy with the will of the people and others mourn the outcome. Help us to move forward together in DeBary on the issues and matters that are important to our residents in continuing the progress of recent years. We also are remembering that many in our community are still facing challenges left in the wake of Milton. We want to stand with these neighbors and support them as they recover. As we consider the matters before us this evening, grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we may make the best decisions for those who have chosen us to represent them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the regular City Council meeting for the month of November. City Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Sell.
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Here.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Mayor Chazet.
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Here. We begin the meeting with presentations, and one that we look forward to all year, our Hometown Heroes recognition, and I would invite Robert Wilkerson, the chair of the Hometown Heroes Selection Committee, to come to the mic.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Chazet and council members. It's truly an honor to be part of this moment where we acknowledge and celebrate the incredible heroes in our community. I'd like to extend my gratitude to Ms. Christina Raimondo, United States Marine Corps veteran, Ms. Annette Hatch, and Ms. Casey Hewitt for their tireless dedication to the City of DeBary and our Hometown Heroes Committee. I'd like to thank our Hometown Hero Committee Vice Chair Gail Kohler, Secretary Pam Ring, our first ever Hometown Hero Jimmy Hensley, and Jean Volberg for their dedication and hard work. Your efforts in honoring our veterans are deeply appreciated. Now we must thank all of our sponsors for supporting our veterans and our community. Gail Kohler, Keller Williams Real Estate, she did 2 banners. Robert Wilkerson, Sunshine Insurance Brokerage. Amy Ann Salmi, Keller Williams Real Estate. Candace Lungsford, Keller Williams Real Estate. Janelle Buchanowitz, Lively Real Estate. Charlie Peterson, the Peterson Real Estate Group at Keller Williams. Tonight we are honoring our veterans from the Navy, Marine Corps, Army, and Coast Guard. Our first hometown hero is Major John E. Marshall. Okay. U.S. Marine Corps, as the ladies here like to say, he's a supermodel of the Marine Corps Air Wing. He served from 1937 to 1960 as an enlisted man and officer. He was a fighter pilot in the Korean War and was a member of the Black Sheep Squadron. Major Marshall received several medals, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, a Purple Heart, Presidential Unit Citation, Korean Service Medal, and the Air Medal and Gold Star in lieu of a second Air Medal. We have Petty Officer Nelson Goudreau, retired U.S. Navy. He served from 1948 to 1968. Petty Officer Goudreau served as a carrier-based bombardier navigator in the Korean and Vietnam Wars. Though in his last 10 years of service, he was stationed at the Naval Air Station Sanford. His name actually appears on the airplane hanging at the airport. Petty Officer Goudreau was active in both veterans posts in DeBary, the American Legion, and the VFW, where Petty Officer Goudreau became post commander. Private First Class Anthony Prudig, U.S. Marine Corps. Served from 1991 to 1995 with the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit. He served in Operation Ceasefire, Operation Restore Hope, and Operation Continue Hope while stationed in Somalia. Seaman Robert L. Greco. U.S. Navy served in 1965 to 1967. He was assigned to U.S. Naval 10th Submarine Base, New London, Groton, Connecticut. Sergeant Bill Moore. U.S. Army served from 1968 to 1969. During the Vietnam War, he was assigned to the 1st Cavalry Division, 5th Battalion, 7th Cavalry E Company Recon. He was wounded on December 24, 1968, and received the Purple Heart. Sergeant Moore received a Bronze Star for his involvement against hostile forces in the Republic of Vietnam. Sergeant Moore is active in the Barry VFW and a great poker player, actually. Petty Officer Thomas Netler. U.S. Coast Guard served from 1981 to 1986. As a radioman 3rd class, Petty Officer on board the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Dallas, he was part of the recovery team for the Space Shuttle Challenger accident. He received a certificate of appreciation from the Presidential Commission investigating the accident and was recognized by NASA for his service. And last but not least, the youngest member of all of them, Petty Officer John Zook, 102 years young. And plus, he has great hair. I'm not jealous. U.S. Navy served from 1944 to 1946. During World War II, he served on the USS 703 Subchaser in the South Pacific. He patrolled for enemy submarines as a machinist mate. He saw action during the initial invasion of the Philippines Islands during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, where the Japanese first used kamikaze planes. He also fought in the second invasion of Luzon Island. The Battle of Leyte Gulf was one of the largest battles in Navy history. We thank you for your heroism and service. Now let's hear their story. We thank you for your heroism and service. Now let's hear their story from our own hometown heroes or their family members.
I served in the U.S. Coast Guard from April of '81 through September of '86. Under Coast Guard cutter Dallas, the ship I was on, out of New York City. We were doing search and rescue, or now it's recovery, of the Challenger. Finding cracked helmets and bits and pieces of the ship, of the spacecraft, and then you'll find a bag, Ziploc bag. From that teacher who had Kermit the Frog in it, and all school notes that she was going to do from up there intact. Not one thing broken, burned, was floating. And we got that, and that kind of, some reason, just triggered something. And NASA made for all of us on a ship this, and they made a mold, and they said that they destroyed the mold after they made this. Well, I did have one incident in Fort Myers where I did something I was totally scared because I just came out of boot camp. Some gentleman and his son, 10-year-old son, decided to go catamaran out on the Gulf of Mexico. I was told to put on the safety harness and then jump in, swim, grab the kid, bring him back, and then go get the dad. And I just came out of boot camp, so this is like a wild thing. I'm doing wild thing. But once you jump in, all that's gone. Now you're on a mission, and you're like, get that kid. And he all warmed up and smiled and he's hugging his dad. That was just like, well worth it, that was like, that right there. That's what it's about.
Hi, this is Judith Freudig, and I'm sometimes I didn't eat much because I want to give it to the kids, because he unfortunately saw kids killing kids for a piece of bread. It was very hard for him, and that's something that he carried always. I really do appreciate that you guys have this kind of program so you can help people express their love for the loved ones, even if they're, something like this. Because he's like, I know he's in heaven, he's not in and he's fine with us too. Here. My name is Evelyn Goodrow, and I was married to Nelson Goodrow for 60-something years.
My name is Chris Goodrow. Nelson Goodrow was my father. We did 2 tours in Vietnam. He flew, he's a bombardier navigator, and at the time of the Vietnam War, they had enlisted personnel filling in, they didn't have enough officers. So he was part of that enlisted crew that flew either back seat or next to the pilot. So he was a bombardier navigator, and his squadron got a lot of awards.
I worked at the Naval Air Station, he was stationed there. And so he would always come in my office to do different things, and that's how we met, got going out. 2 years later, we were married.
He did most of his career in Sanford, and then his last 2 years when they closed the Sanford Air Base, they transferred him to Albany. He was an instructor there.
And he drove home every weekend from all
So he was a family. I think about he would get off work
so
Friday.
he wouldn't have to move.
When he got out of the Navy, he joined the Fleet Reserve and the VFW. And then a couple of years into the VFW, he was elected commander at the VFW here locally. And then after maybe 5 years, he was district commander, who was commander over a bunch of VFW posts in Florida.
We think it's great.
And it's an honor for us to like ask for that. And he loved his Navy career.
My name is Randall Marshall. My father is John E. Marshall, Major John E. Marshall. He served in Korea, not only as a fighter pilot, but also as a courier. In those days, they only allowed you to fly self-munitions. And after that, you were on the ground, being a four-year patrol, you were calling in dimensions of directions for strikes for the other pilots who were in the air. So he did that. For the Distinguished Flying Cross, he was quite proud of that. Didn't talk about it a lot, but I know from reading the commendation, he led his unit to attack some bunkers that were, I think, on Cycle Mountain or something, and they were inflicting heavy casualties on the ground. And they knocked him out with their rockets and guns from their life supply. He was a good, hardworking man. Loved his country, loved his people, generous, help others, just all around a good person that we want to know and ask dad.
Billy Moore, March, used to go 3/12/48. I was drafted out of Cicero, just outside Chicago, and my MOS was infantry. Well, I was proud to serve. I was with a small unit, a little recon unit, and we got a long time there. I think we're all not happy to be there, but proud to be there. I was engaged in my work now. Some of them were married, a couple even had children. And we're talking about them just getting home on that day.
Thank you for that service, and thank you for being one of our Purple Heart recipients who's still with us today.
Hello, my name is Wendy Virgo. I'm the daughter of Robert Louis Virgo, who served in the U.S. Navy.
And you said he was a commanding officer in the U.S. Naval Submarine Base?
That's what I read. He was amazing. There was nothing he couldn't do or fix. And when he passed, I was mad at him because I couldn't find his, what is it, the
DD-214?
I couldn't find his stuff. And I couldn't call him.
If your dad were here today with us, and he were told that he was selected as a hometown hero, and the title bestowed upon him by his city, what do you think your dad would say?
Be really excited.
If you had one last time with Dad to tell him about this day and what this means, what would you say to him to talk to the picture?
Thank you.
My name is John Zook. I have a date of birth machinist. And they didn't want me to be released yet because I was working on government, very secret mission. The Philippines was the first time the Japanese used the kamikaze. We were not aware of that, of even them thinking of that. And they came in very, very, very hard with many, many planes. The mine came floating in, you know, the kind with the big spikes on it, came floating in and one of our men saw it. So we called in, or they called in to the Army to ask if they had someone that could take care of this. And I knew tools, so I volunteered. And we swam out to it, and he asked for certain wrenches, and I gave him out of the bag. I was carrying his bag for him. We're both hanging on to it, and he said, now, John, you have to climb on top of this mine, because when I take out this detonator, if I hit the side, it will explode and we're both goners. So we said we both have to get on top of this and ride with the waves. And I thought, then why in the world did I volunteer for this? Out of here, these fellas, they came back in pieces. Heroes. I came back home. They're heroes. I'm not. I'm just another guy. And I had the privilege of serving. I'm very proud of that. But these fellows gave it up more than I did. I'm very grateful for them. I really am.
Will our hometown heroes stand, please? Mayor Sajay.
Yes?
Oh, there you go. Where'd you go? Would you like to meet the hometown heroes and take a photo?
Absolutely.
Hometown heroes, come on up, get a group photo.
We're going to do a photo, and I'd like the council members also to stand there so that we can have them behind us. Yes.
It's okay to family members up here?
It's, yeah, you do what you want. He's gonna, oh, yes. You, but you're representing because he's not here. Come hold my hand. Come hold my hand. Stand here together, how's that? Yes, thank you.
Well, she's happy to have the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Do you want the committee to be in the picture as well? All right, we'll have the Hometown Heroes Committee go up as well. And Christina, she worked very hard on this.
Yes, he did.
Wait, we're missing one. Let's go first.
We'll send you a copy. Okay. Thank you all so very much. We are going to take a 5-minute recess so that the families can visit outside, and we will reconvene the meeting in 5 minutes and begin the rest of our schedule. The meeting is now commenced. We have a presentation on Hurricane Milton by Carmen Rosamunda, the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll go through the slides. Our purpose here is to show the areas that we've had significant impacts and kind of show the statistics of the hurricane and just the devastation that has occurred, not only in our city, but in surrounding city as well. When we were out doing our assessments, not many people remember that we've had 3 hurricanes this hurricane season and a significant wet September. And so this picture depicts the satellite images of all those hurricanes and a good portion of the tropical waves in September. This is the live Doppler from Hurricane Milton. And Mayor, when you see this, Mayor and Council, when you see this, the purpose of this video is to show you where the eye was and show you as the hurricane approaches. The eye is right here if you can follow my cursor. But this goes until about 11:30, and you can see that as the dry air was working in from underneath the hurricane, the St. Johns River Basin didn't get much rain. However, most of the water was on the north side of the hurricane, and this stops at 11:39. And my next slide will show everything that came through. We were on the eye of the hurricane, and this was a direct hit. So it certainly had impacted us like never before. So the next slide, let me see if I can get this next slide working. So the next slide is a stop image at 11:39 p.m. And this is the live Doppler here. Again, you can see the eye that's vivid on the as it crosses the state of Florida. However, you can see there from 11:39 all the way through about 4 or 5 o'clock is the time that we were in the eye wall and everything was completely red. That's the majority of our rainfall occurred between about 11:39 and all the way to about 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So again, as I said before, this is a direct hit, and we were in the eye wall in this hurricane. This is the National Weather Service report that we get on a constant basis, and this is the morning of the hurricane at 6 a.m. And they're raising their awareness from 6 to 12 inches to 15 to 18 inches of rain. That we're warning us that we're in a flash flood situation. As you can see there, Orlando, Sanford, Seminole County, Lake County, and Volusia County are all in the extreme position, anywhere from 15 to 18 inches of rain. We have many amateur folks in DeBary and some other cities there that said it was probably closer to 20 inches of rain in less than 10 hours of time. So I did some comparisons to other hurricane season. Our last hurricane was Hurricane Ian. It was 15 inches of rain in 24 hours. Then we got Nicole about 45 days later. But Hurricane Ian was the first hurricane of the season, and it was actually the first hurricane in 5 years. And so we were not very saturated at that particular time. And saturation is a big factor in these. Each hurricane and each hurricane season is a separate and distinct factors that you have to deal with. During Hurricane Ian, a lot of water had rain in the St. Johns River Basin. As you know, the basin goes from Sanford all the way down to Vero Beach, the St. Johns River Basin, and it got a lot of water from Hurricane Ian and also Tropical Storm Nicole. And we had a lot of coastal flooding around the St. Johns River. But as you saw the Doppler before, the basin of the St. Johns River hardly got any rain. Some folks that I talked to that was south of the eye, for example, in Sarasota, got about 2 inches of rain because all the rain was on the north side of this hurricane. But this hurricane season, Hurricane Debbie, the tropical waves that we got in September alone, we got 14.71 inches of rain, and that include Helene. And then Hurricane Milton, we got 2 hurricanes in 2 weeks. And Hurricane Milton is we estimate 18 inches of rain in 12 hours. So September 1 through October the 10th, we got 33 inches of rain in 40 days. And that's documented. Our 30-year average rainfall for September and October is 10.4 inches. And so we got 3 times our 30-year average in rainfall in 40 days. And again, little rain in the St. Johns River Basin, and that's why you see minimal river coastal flooding. People were anticipating the St. Johns River rising significantly, and it has not. So I do want to show some images here to show the amount of water. I think the water, the amount of water, the volume of water, and the speed of water is unprecedented. It has never happened that I've seen. I've lived here 40 years and been through 2004 with 3 hurricanes. This one, the volume and the speed of water was unprecedented. Excuse me, let me back up here. So this is the intersection of Highway 1792 and Dirksen. These guys are on the sidewalk. They are knee deep on the sidewalk. It's about 3.5 feet deep there on the intersection of Highway 1792 and Dirksen. They were called out because the road was flooding, and we want to make sure that the inlets were clear so that the emergency vehicles could get through, and that's the priority why they're called out in the middle of the storm. This is in front of Glen Abbey Golf Club, and again, this is at 1:30 in the morning. You can see the volume of water that is coming off the golf course. And you can see the clubhouse coming in view there. It's approximately 1 to 2 feet deep, and it is, and you can expect this kind of runoff for the next 3 hours. This kind of volume of water that goes there. This next one here is significant. This is the FDOT pond at High Banks in 1792. It's between Fashion Fix and Orlando Health. It just shows you the images of water exceeding the bounds of retention ponds. And this here is probably going to be the basis of my presentation, because a lot of the flooding has occurred was the water had exceeded retention ponds and overflowed retention ponds. And excuse me, go back here. I do want to play it again because this is a very important image, and that you can kind of visualize as we go through these particular slides, the volume of water during the hurricane and how fast it was moving and how it overcame structures even built by the Department of Transportation. And so it's just if you don't mind, just mark this image of the water coming out of the retention pond, going to Gem Lake. The volume of water is significant. I showed this here. This is in Summer Haven, Bernasek. This, again, I'm just showing we are the operation and maintenance entity of this. This is our easement going to the lake that's on I-4. Fortunately, these lots are extremely large. And this is the volume of water, and you can see the force of water. This is about 10 to 15 feet wide and about 4 feet deep. And this is coming off the street and cutting its way through to get to the I-4 lake. And just, again, purpose is just to show you the volume and the strength of the water. I used a little bit of Orange City, and again, it's unprecedented what happened a little bit in Orange City. It does relate a little bit here to DeBerry. But the Wawa Lake overflowed, and that's everybody knows where Wawa is and the pond behind there. But this is the cut that it did in this private road. The volume of water is unprecedented. We've never seen that kind of cut. And on the right-hand side is the cut from the parking lot behind Big Lots. It cuts a 4-foot crevice right through the asphalt down to the area that's the low area adjacent to Highway 1792. This is the image on Highway 1792. The area of that flooded is on the bottom right. But that water came across 1792, and that's what it cut Highway 1792, and that's what you see there. You see the sediment that had spilled out into Miller Lake, and also we'll get to here in a little bit is the FDOT pond back here that FDOT was involved in pumping to the city of DeBerry. But this just shows you the volume of water and the cuts that it made. You can see the flooding there again, but that water came through there, cutting asphalt, cutting sand, that's about 6 foot deep, and bringing that all into Miller Lake. Miller Lake is a county lake. It's actually in the unincorporated county, and this is Miller Lake. As you can see, the flooding is up to the rooftops of these particular homes and barns, and to the right, there's even more flooding to some of the houses over there. Miller Road, they had to raise the road up about 4 feet to get residents access to their particular homes. And so that just gives you just some ideas of the volume and the speed of water. Even Florida Power and Light, they have a 1,200-acre reservoir on the southern part of DeBerry, was moving water the evening before the storm. And so we were out there making sure that the water was being transported properly. We do have some damage, more additional damage underneath the Fort Florida Bridge. The foundation is not damaged. It's the support, the structures that support the protection of the foundation. So the foundation's okay. It's those slanted areas off the foundation that is further damaged from the water that's being moved from this reservoir to the St. Johns River. And they're lowering this, for those who don't know about the reservoir, this reservoir is 20 foot above ground. It's 1,200 acres. It's their reservoir to cool their turbines, and they manage the level of the lake with FDEP permits. They can manage the level of the lake and move water to the St. Johns River to protect this particular reservoir. Again, it's 20 feet above ground.
This is Fort Florida, correct?
Fort Florida Road, yes. Well, it's sometimes the geographics, the geographics, yeah, this is Fort Florida Road looking at the spillway on a 1,200-acre reservoir. So a lot of folks say, well, the city of DeBerry wasn't prepared, but I have to say that Volusia County in its entirety is significantly, is really proficient in its emergency management. The 16 cities work closely with the National Weather Service, the Division of Emergency Management, and Volusia County Emergency Management. We have daily calls, daily correspondence with the National Weather Service, reports on a continuous basis leading up to the storm. If you've never been to the Volusia County Emergency Management, there is a video, 4-minute video. It is a spectacular site. It holds 275 people. Everybody from Duke, FP&L, FPU, and everybody else are at this particular site. Sheriff Chitwood's there, and they're doing operations there. And even in DeBerry here and every other city sets up an emergency operations center. And this room here was our emergency operations center for 2 weeks, where our folks had stationed here, receiving calls here, emergency calls, et cetera, right here at this particular location. We are one of the most prepared counties in the state of Florida, and I say that wholeheartedly because it is the information and everything else that comes out in preparedness. We're talking about shelters. We're talking about shelters for handicapped, shelters for dogs, evacuations, mandatory evacuations, and everything else to make sure that the folks that are in this particular storm, the mobile homes were mandatory evacuated. And so we had to make sure that folks were moving out and getting out of the way of this particular storm since we were hit with the eye. But if you have time, go on to Volusia County Emergency Management, watch that 4-minute video. You're going to be extremely impressed with that if you never toured that facility. One of the other things that we talk about is our preparation, and it doesn't just start at the time of the hurricane. There's a lot of off-season preparation. And so just as a list of everything that we kind of go through, I do want to tell everybody that, people are talking about, well, the city didn't turn on pumps or the pumps weren't running. Our pumps are automated. They run by themselves based upon the water levels that are in the lakes that they serve. And so they run and operate and shut off based upon the levels of water. The only thing that we're out there checking is basically there's a conversion from generator power to electric or electric back to generator. And we also make sure we're checking the fuel, make sure that our generators have enough fuel to operate during the power outages. And so that's where we're out there. But generally, all of our pumps are automated and run by themselves. Now, during some of the storms there, I may have misspoke and said one of our pumps was down about 2 hours. I was corrected by our superintendent and our public works folks that our pumps ran 100% of the time, perfectly as designed, and we're very proud of that. But in the off-season, we installed 2 new pumps at the Berry Plantation. The other ones were 15 years old. We installed 2 brand new pumps in February. We installed a brand new pump in Quail Lake. We cleaned and repaired all the air release valves along those lines to make sure that the water transports effectively. We rebuilt the 2 pumps at Bill Keller Park. We repaired the DPCA pond overflow to save the pipeline there on Donald Smith. The quarterly maintenance is done on a quarterly basis for all our generators and pumps. We're actually had a pre-construction meeting on our new automated station at James Pond that we're fixing to build. And I guess construction will start here in a month or so. We even bought properties to prevent development and enhance emergency systems. As you recall, these 2 areas in purple, we purchased those particular properties. The one on the far right is Palm Drive. That was, they were marketing 150 townhomes on that. We denied that particular development, and we bought that property to conserve it. And then the property on Dirksen is 114 lots. And we purchased that property to prevent that from development there. And both of those are significant purchases to help enhance our emergency management system. But in the storm preparation, we go through a slew of preparations before the storm gets here, and we're running portable pumps. That's in addition to our automated systems. We're placing them, we're fueling them, we're running lines. We drain all our lakes to maximum capacity. I know some folks want the lakes drained to dirt, but unfortunately our automated systems only allow a certain amount of water into the pumping chamber, and the water, once it gets to a certain level, does not go in that chamber. Our pumps do not operate. Those are set by St. John's Water Management District based upon water table records and everything else. You don't want to pump to water table. Water table, you're just wasting your time because you're pumping the St. John's River, essentially. And so those are all set by the St. John's Water Management District, and I know some folks expect it to be dirt. Our systems, our automated systems cannot do that. They are set to a specific level, and we create capacity as much as we can in those particular lakes. And so we do inlet clearance and to optimize flow, sandbag operations. We rent all the heavy equipment. You saw the front end loaders that were moving trees and everything else. We need those to make sure that the roads are open and so that emergency services can be provided. We do it at the City Emergency Operations Center, which is here. We coordinate with Volusia County Emergency Management with communications, and we set up the Communication Information Center. And then we have briefings all the time with those particular organizations. But during the immediate storm, during and the immediate after post-storm, we're doing flooding elimination, road clearance, we're doing emergency service coordination, our residents' inquiries, and we're doing problem resolutions. We do public safety repairs, roads and power ditches, and we do a lot of debris cleanup and processing as in post-storm. And so there's a lot of moving parts in this particular avenue. And with this particular storm, when you have events in so many different parts of the city, it certainly stretches our resources, but it's areas that we think we were very successful in minimizing a damage, as you see there, the amount of volume of water and the speed of water. I provided this particular slide just for educational purposes, the challenges of dealing with these storms. Day one, water works on elevation. And if you're in a low part of an elevation, you're getting water. And first day, it's usually the surface water that is running on top of the ground. And then in day 2 through 5, or even we have some areas that groundwater is still running into the street, is moving towards that lower location. And so that's why many folks saw the day one that the water was at this particular level, but then in certain areas it started to rise in day 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's because the water is traveling groundwater and hitting the water table and accumulating, and so it's forcing the water to rise. And so this is a general format of how we deal with when we deal with storms, and we understand We get the surface water day one, and it's groundwater, and if you're at a low location, it's going to continue to come depending on the amount of rain that you get and amount of water. So I'll just go through some of these here. This is the county pond on Enterprise. This is Enterprise Road right here, and High Banks is right here. And this is the county pond that exists there. The issue we have in this particular area is the I-4 was flooded. They closed Saxon Boulevard and I-4 on the on-ramp and off-ramp. FDOT is pumping down this direction all the way down to Lake Monroe. It influences this lake here that transfers over into the county pond here. And as you can see the pictures there, when the county pond overflows, it overflows into the retention area behind the school. And then when that overflows, it's into the street. Now, this is the location where our James Pond pumping station is going to be. It will manage the level of the James Pond Lake on an automated basis. But unfortunately, this pond here basically is overflowing. As you can see in the picture on the left, this is October the 10th. You can't see the overflow valve that's back here in the corner. And that water is heading to Alexander Woods Drive. And so it's on a continuous basis, and it's connected to the lake that's across the street with Enterprise. So how high that lake gets, that water is coming west into the county retention pond. You can see here 10 days later, this is October the 20th, you can barely see the guard there 10 days later, so the water is still overflowing into the area in the back, and the level of this lake has not declined in 10 days. And so this is what it creates. This is Alexander Woods Drive. You can see the stop sign there. That's what I'm focusing you on. That's 7 feet tall. So we're 5 to 6 feet deep there in Alexandra Woods Drive. Fortunately, no homes were affected by this. And I just wanted to show you the volume of water that is coming from, not only from DeBerry into DeBerry, but it's also coming from outside of DeBerry into DeBerry. And so it's a really strong task to manage this particular water. 10 days later, we have James Pond contained, but unfortunately, we're still getting the overflow from the county pond down into Alexander Woods. It's now clear, but again, it's managing that water and making sure that, and we're going to have to work with the county. We asked the county to pump this pond 3 times, and they declined all 3 times to come out and pump the county pond. So we're going to work on some agreements with the county on this particular pond, at least to get permission to allow us to pump it. There is a dry line that runs from the county pond all the way down to I-4. But unfortunately, they did not want to pump that particular, this pond. So all this water from this lake goes through the county pond is in Alexander Woods subdivision. But you can see the volume and the speed of water is just continuous even 10 days after the storm. So Fawn Ridge impacted Glen Abbey. Fawn Ridge and this is the city limits between the city of DeBerry and Orange City. Fawn Ridge is a private, public street, private stormwater subdivision. The operation and maintenance entities you can see over here is the Homeowners Association. This retention pond, and talking to the city manager, has never overflowed. It's a closed basin retention pond. It has no outfall. And the calculations done by the developers, engineers, and St. John's never probably anticipated this retention pond overflowing. Unfortunately, it did, you can see here the day after the storm, you can see that the retention pond has crested over. And these are some pictures here of how the water got down to the homes. You can see the homes in the back here. There's a significant amount of water that came out of this retention pond, and unfortunately, it damaged the homes that it came through. This is the homes at 225 Glen Abbey Lane and the one next door. It wiped out about a 15-foot underneath the foundation. They may be trying to repair this particular home. I'm not exactly sure, but that just shows you the damage that comes down from the retention pond. The retention pond, as you look at this palm tree here, this retention pond is uphill, and it's right behind that palm tree, and it came in this particular direction through here. The home on this side is also damaged, didn't damage the foundation, but significant damage to the yard. This is the damage that the water has come through the master bedroom here, wiped out the front yard and moved all that dirt into the street. This again, this is about 5 or 6 hours after the storm. We had some great volunteers who came in and helped clear this particular road, but you can just see the volume of sediment that has moved from the private property into the street. And we'll have to, we're in process of vacuuming this particular stormwater system because so much dirt has now moved into that system. So it's, fortunately, nobody was injured in this particular situation, but this is one house where the foundation has been affected. West High Banks, on the left-hand side is West High Banks before the storm. Typically, we got drainage ditches on both sides. But after the storm, you can see I'm at the railroad track here. This is the trail crossing on the bottom part. Sullivan Park is up higher. This is the Duke property on the left-hand side, and the trail is completely, and the road is completely flooded. And on the right-hand side, be honest with you, I have never seen this much water in West High Banks. Both the ditches on the right and the left are completely full, and the entire road is flooded. And there's a tree down, and we had a volunteer help with that particular tree. We removed that tree. Duke was couldn't give us a time to get out there, and these volunteers removed, not because we wanted them to, because it was in the power line, but they removed that tree and helped when this water's down, the residents were able to transport on West High Banks. Well, all this water that you see in West High Banks now from the railroad track all the way down to the river looks like this. Unfortunately, it's about 1.5 miles or 2 miles long down to the river, and it's a significant amount of water. And that water on these ditches goes through the High Banks RV Park, and has gone through there for 70 or 80 years. It is a natural prescriptive easement that goes through, and when it gets down towards High Banks Marina, it makes a right-hand turn, goes into their retention pond, and then underneath their bridge out to the river. And so let me show you what that looks like. This is 3 days after 3 days after the storm, and I'll play you a little bit here. This water is still moving significantly 3 days afterwards. It's about 4 feet below the bridge. However, during the storm, that water had crested the bridge. And as you can see in the photos on the left-hand side, the bridge, this foundation here, this foundation wall is cracked and it's leaning to the left. And this road is eroded all the way back about 3 or 4 feet underneath this asphalt. So it's a public safety hazard. The emergency, state of emergency allowed us to go ahead and just protect public safety. Eric Drury and Crush was able to put at least a paver base there to secure the bridge so that it didn't collapse, and secure that foundation wall so that it didn't collapse either. So that structure can still serve DeBerry. I know the retention pond got high, and so you can see there that the water rose probably about 5 feet to crest over this particular bridge. And so that's what we did there. Dutchman's Bend. While Crush was working on that, I went out to Dutchman's Bend. Dutchman's Bend, there's a lot of water that comes off of Duke property. All the 500 acres that Duke has, all this water is heading to the river. In this particular area here, there were pipes installed in 2004. That road was washed out. Duke owns the road, but they have an easement. The residents that live in St. Johns River Acres, or we call Dutchman's Bend, up here, have an easement to use this road, and they take care of this particular road on their behalf. Duke doesn't do, be honest with you, doesn't do a whole lot for them. But it is a private road. But again, there's 500 acres of energy systems here, and all that water is moving towards the river at a significant pace. Unfortunately, Duke wouldn't go out there and turn their power on until the residents fixed the road. And that, unfortunately, we had to go out there and fix the road, so Duke will go out there and fix and turn their power on. And so we also did some other measures, is that we called the state of Florida. This right property up here is Blue Springs. And we got the gate open on Blue Springs, and even though it was a little muddy, I think a few got through there to be able to have access in and out while we repaired the road. But Eric Drury and Crush Supply did a phenomenal job. They rebuilt the culvert wall. They rebuilt the road, and lo and behold, Duke was out the next day or 2 days later and restored the power to Dutchman's Bend. But this is what that looks like. Coming from the right to across is, and there are some videos here, but this file is getting pretty big, and so I didn't have any of the videos here, but you can imagine the amount of storm water that came across Dutchman's Bend Road and cut a 1/10 of a mile crevice in their road. They couldn't get out. They had no access. And so we asked Eric Drury and Crush to come in and rebuild this particular road. He restored the area around the pipes and then rebuilt this road so the residents could get in and out. And again, Duke was there, I think the next day or the day after, to restore their power. But they had no access to their particular property. And so we get into Berry Plantation, Unit 16 pond. The Unit 16 pond is located right here on Hampton Oaks Circle. It's a closed basin retention pond. It has never overflowed. And so you can imagine, if you remember that DOT water coming off the DOT retention pond earlier in this presentation, this is the same type of volume of water that exceeded this particular banks of this particular pond. The owner and maintenance entity is the DeBerry Plantation Community Association. This is the St. John's Water Management District permit. Unfortunately, because this overflowed into the street, and I think it did in 2 or 3 different areas, because as I drove through here, there were 3 different pockets of flooding. These 3 homes here flooded and had water intrusion inside their house. This is basically what it looked like, and this is about 4 hours after the storm. You can see on the left here, the water is running out of Hampton Estates, running down Hampton Oaks Circle, and going downward towards the Unit 19 pond. And I'm not the best photographer in the world, but that's the video there that's coming out. This one on the right is the opposite view of the water that's coming out. And so you can see the water coming out of Hampton Estates. It's now rushing down. This is the 14th tee if you play golf at DeBerry Golf and Country Club. And these 2 houses from behind the houses were water intrusion into the house. So this at 105 Hillcrest got water inside the house, and the 2 behind it, because of this water coming down Hampton Hills retention pond there, has flooded those 2 houses out there. And you can see the water has crested here. Again, this is 4 hours after the storm. So Mayor, Council, because of the water that was running down the street and through these houses, got into the Unit 19 pond. Again, this is this pond, the owner, the operation and maintenance entity, based upon the St. John's Water Management District permit, is the developer, and that automatically rolls to the HOA. So the Unit 19 pond, that's here on the right-hand side. It crested its boundaries as well. It crested over the berm, and this is basically what it looks like. And unfortunately, the overflow again damaged the west side of Donald Smith again. Exposing our emergency management pump, but you can see the water that's cresting the pond. Again, this is 2.5 hours after it's cresting the pond and going into this inlet and across the street. And then you can see the cut that it made into the street there. I'm going to pause right here. You can see the water that's coming out of the overflow valve. But this yellow pipe there is a natural gas line, and this pipe right here that you see there, that's our pipeline, emergency management pipeline, that takes the water from the front entrance of DeBerry Plantation and Quail Lake and transports it to the Burrow Pit in the southwest DeBerry. And so this side over here is the same, basically the same thing, just a side view. But you can see that, again, the natural gas line and the water that's overflowing there. And so we have repaired that temporarily. We have taken out the overflow structure. It doesn't work. It needs to be re-engineered. And so kudos to, again, Eric Drury and Crush Supply. We discovered this at 7:30, and we opened the road 12 hours later so that we at least have one lane open. DeBerry Plantation didn't have an exit simply because the front entrance was flooded, and then this road was closed. But we got it open within 12 hours so that they at least have in and out. And so John Hill with Flubber Public Utilities, Eric Drury was working this backhoe and working around that natural gas line. And John Hill sent his guys out there. They were out there in 10 minutes so that these guys can work around that natural gas line so it didn't explode. And also to Captain Israel with the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. Unfortunately, we have folks that were driving around our barriers and intermingling with our there, and he sent a deputy out there to control traffic because nobody was obeying the road closed signs. And then the light towers, Volusia County Emergency Management provided the light tower so that we can keep it illuminated at night, and just in case Eric Drury needed some light to finish the project. Don Beasley did the repair on 1028. He reset the inlet, and he also repaved the road, so at least now we have 2 lanes open for the school. I appreciate everybody's patience on why we got that done, but again, it's record time to get those 2 lanes open and get access to the school. But unfortunately, the hurricane created such damage there. It took some significant contractors and with their expertise to be able to fill it and to be able to patch that road to make it accessible 2 lanes. I give kudos to Westridge. Their retention pond breached. And if it wasn't, and I don't remember the person's name, we didn't get his name, but he lives across the street here. As we were inspecting this breach, the retention pond overflowed the breach here. Fortunately, he went out at 3 o'clock in the morning and cleared this overflow structure. Westridge has a policy to plant bushes around their overflow valves, and that's what he told us. And they don't like to see them, and they plant bushes around them to hide them. And that's bushes and the debris there clogged that particular overflow valve, and which caused the breach to go over. What was dangerous about this, if he didn't go out there at 3 a.m., this would have wiped out Donald Smith, as this area over here to the left is the sinkhole area. It's not like what you saw at Unit 19 pond. This would have completely wiped out the road. This overflow structure goes underneath Donald Smith Road to the sinkhole area over here, and it flows the water safely without any interference with the street. But because this water was overcoming here, he went out at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I think he's on Westridge board, and please thank him for his efforts. But he cleared this overflow valve and saved a significant amount of money for that HOA there. So Quail Lake, unfortunately, Quail Lake Unit 13, nobody from Quail Lake had any water intrusion from Quail Lake, and so we had an overflow structure, that retention pond that we witnessed there. Had this retention pond breached and brought this water into this direction here. And so we didn't have any reports. Again, we can only go based upon the reports that we get from the boards and from people calling in. But right now, estimate that I don't have any water intrusion into actual living areas from Quail Lake. This particular flooding here had occurred because of this retention pond breached its bounds there. And unfortunately, this is the inlet here. It is clogged, and that may be one of the reasons why it overflowed. We had 2 homes up on Quail Hill Drive, and the elevation, as you go in Quail Lake, you make a right and go up the hill. We had 2 homes, and we have 2 inlets right here in front of their houses here. These 2 homes had significant water intrusion into their house. It appears that the water had either overcome these particular inlets, or they were clogged, one of the 2, and it overcame and went in these 2 particular houses here. And so we had water intrusion in those 2 houses as well. And again, DeBerry Plantation Community Association is based upon the St. John's Water Management District permits, is the operation and maintenance entity. So this is in front of DeBerry Plantation entrance and the Pine Valley Basin. It's basically one DeBerry Plantation front entrance, and the pond across the street are basically one unit body itself. And so, yes, this is a picture about 5 days after the storm. It's still flooded, but this is the day after the storm. We had a good 3 to 4 feet of water inside on the road there. This was blocked, this particular entrance, and the Donald Smith entrance there had kind of confined the residents to their subdivision for about 12 hours. And so as you can see there, that's me actually standing there and cars disobeying, that they should not go through there, but they're still trying to get through to get out their subdivision. We did have a pipe failure at Cedarwood, and the pipe, at the end of the pipe, had clogged up with sediment, and it overflowed the inlet in the street, went down one house over and came between these 2 houses here and had this particular erosion here. The outfall of that particular pipe is buried. It's about 4 feet under all this sediment here. But also 1792 was flooded. The road, both the ponds came, the pond on Pine Valley Court flooded into the street there, and of course all this water ends up going across to DeBerry Plantation to be pumped out. And so yes, this water here is flooded, and unfortunately, this is what Lamont Court looks like. Water is in their garage, but in their lanai, I met with their president, HOA president, on several times, but no water was, and he'll tell you no water was actually inside the home. It got into the garage in lanai, and Harold Bailey and I have been communicating a lot on this particular street here. Also, as again, Pine Valley Court water, again, if you look at the picture on the left, we're on Pine Valley Court. We're looking across the lake there at Pine Valley Court. That's 1792 right here, looking towards DeBerry Plantation. And yes, we had 3 to 4 homes with water intrusion in the house. A lot of that water comes from the Glen Abbey Golf Course, and I'll show you some pictures of how the water now goes all the way down to this particular location. And then we had 1 or 2 homes with water intrusion in the garage. So I want to show folks, because when we were out there doing these ad hoc meetings in the street with the residents there, we were talking about the topography and the groundwater that's going to this particular area. This is an extremely important map, and it's two-phased. One, it's a color map to show the elevation of the property, but it also shows a statistical map. You can see the elevations all the way around this particular basin. This is the DeBerry Plantation and Pine Valley Basin. The orange, as you can see here in the legend, if it's red or orange, you're about elevation 30 to 40, and as you go up the elevation, it turns to yellow, and then once you get up towards 60, 70, 80, 90, it turns to green. And so this area in yellow, in orange here, is the low spots of this particular basin. The DeBerry Plantation and Beacon Club is elevation 37. And just to give you an example, Saxon Boulevard intersection is 88 feet. So it's almost 50 feet above this particular elevation here. And so when you start calculating all the high points around this particular area and how much water goes all the way down, it's really a 360-degree basin. This area right here is the clubhouse. The clubhouse is approximately 76 feet. and it goes right down Plantation Boulevard, right down into Lower Lake here, down to 40 feet. And so all that water that falls into the clubhouse, DeBerry Plantation Boulevard, from Kings Lake to Highlands Park to Saxon Boulevard, and from Glen Abbey, all of that water is heading to where it's orange. So we did some calculations just to provide some statistics, but this is the basin. We matched up all the high points in this particular area and all the water that heads down to this basin. It's approximately 650 acres. And when you ask AI about how much the volume of water does water fall on an acre of property when it rains, and at 18 inches of rain, it creates 486,000 gallons per acre. And in this basin alone, we're dealing with 316 million gallons of water. Our pumping station in the front pumps about 12 million gallons per day, and our Quail Lake station pumps about 2 million gallons a day. And all that water goes to the Burrow Pit, which I'll show you here in a second. But this basin here is significant, and it's one of our biggest challenges. And when you pump water, it's not only the volume of water that you can pump, but it's also time. The more time you have, the more water you can move. And when it rains that much, that fast, you just can't move that much water that fast. So we heard that, FDOT it was pumping to this particular site. They have a right to pump to the DeBerry Plantation entrance. This is the agreement that was signed in 2011 between FDOT, the city, and DeBerry Plantation Community Association. They are the actual owner of Track D, which is the retention pond here. This is DeBerry Plantation Boulevard, and this is Highway 1792. But this agreement provides a partial assignment of rights for everyone, including DPCA, to put water into this particular pond. Generally, FDOT puts water in this pond based upon Saxon Boulevard and Pine Meadow. It gravity feeds, when it falls on 1792, it naturally gravity feeds right to this particular pond. All the inlets between Saxon Boulevard and Pine Meadow capture water and move it to this particular pond. But this, in particular incidents, we learned about 2 weeks later, about 5 days after the storm, that FDOT was pumping water into this basin. They have a right to pump water into this basin. But we believe that this agreement is going to need some improvement. We have, obviously, we're going to need some communication criteria in here because I think Vice Mayor, you were in the Emergency Operations Center, and Mayor was in here as well when we got the call that they had been pumping for
2 weeks.
They said 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And so I'm not so much concerned about the water before the storm because we were moving it. It's that critical time between during the storm and about the 5 days afterwards that they were still pumping. After we learned to pump, and they shut the pumps off 30 minutes after we had our Zoom meeting at 5:30 that evening. I think the call came in at about 3, and we had a Zoom meeting at 5:30, and they shut the pumps off. They didn't realize that the impact they were having on homes, and that didn't set well with any of us, to be honest with you. So this is Miller Lake. Obviously, it affects FDOT pond over here, and you're getting a lot of water intrusion. Plus, it's uphill on the north side of the FDOT pond, and you can see that Miller Lake here, it's flooded up to the rooftops of these particular houses and barns. This is their pumping station, and quite frankly, it's dilapidated. There's no pumps in it. They haven't used it in decades, and so they put a portable pump there to move that water. We're still trying to figure out the relationship they're having with the county and with this FDOT pond. And so we've been, now that we got past the storm, we are working with FDOT, and they turning the pumps on and off as we have space. But we cut them off yesterday because I don't have any more space in the Burrow Pit. Burrow Pit is completely full of water. It's 60 acres and 25 feet deep, and it's the first time we ever surpassed even half full. And so this is our pumping system. All these waters here in orange, all these areas in orange, gravity feed to the front two ponds, as I showed you here. When FDOT is pumping from Miller Lake, which is up top here, they're actually flooding their own road. As you see, the cars going on 1792 through the water. But all of this water that is collected in this basin is transported all the way out by itself. We only pump from the front entrance and Quail Lake, and we transport that water all the way to the Burrow Pit, 4 miles to the Burrow Pit. This Burrow Pit only handles Quail Lake and the water in the front of the entrance. It doesn't handle any reclaim. It doesn't handle any other type of water. The only water that goes in this Burrow Pit is from the front entrance, storm water from the front entrance of the Berry Plantation and Quail Lake. That retention pond, this Burrow Pit, is solely dedicated to that area. We have a central station as well, No Name Lake, which is behind Walgreens. It moves water centrally through to the DeBerry Bayou. And then we have a western station, western system here that takes the water from east Glen Abbey through James Pond to I-4, and then through Woodbound Lakes through that to I-4 as well. And that water goes all the way down I-4 to Lake Monroe. And so those are our 3 systems. Again, these are automated systems. They run by themselves. And we just make sure that it has fuel and that the generators are working if the powers go off. In James Pond, as we said before, we're starting construction on the automated system in James Pond. Last year, we put the automated system in Woodbound Lakes. So we had a lot of folks didn't think we were pumping. They can't hear the pumps, but the pumps are underwater. You can't hear them, and plus they're fairly new. So you can't, they're running at optimum performance. But this is our pumping system, pumping into the and this is in August when Hurricane Debbie. And I want you to stop it here because I want to show you the level of the retention, the Burrow Pit. It's just barely covering the bottom there in August. And this is in September with Hurricane Helene. And you notice that we're continuously pumping. You can see the level of the lake now, or level of the Burrow Pit is coming up. And so and as far as our preparation and lowering the lakes as low as we possibly can, we're pumping the morning of the storm. This is here. Again, please notice the level of the lake here. Sorry about that. And I also want you to notice these the bottom of these particular trees here. This is where the berm of the retention pond exists. That's going to have a significant impact. This is the water the day after, and this is the pumping video for October 13th that we're pumping. And then the following day, this is our Burrow Pit, and this is the bottom of those trees that I pointed out to you. This has never happened before. Be honest with you, we were very concerned about breaching this particular Burrow Pit. We gathered our folks together to determine what would happen if it did breach. It would have significant impact in the railroad that's 20 feet below on the opposite side, and it would have significant impact to the FP&L 1,200-acre reservoir that's 20 feet above the ground. So if we had gotten to that particular point, we would have had to make a decision: do we turn it on or do we turn it off? It's extremely stressful when you have to make that decision. But fortunately, we had the retention pond still had space in there by the time we lowered all those lakes. And you can see here on the right, this is the edge of the berm here. This is the water that's coming up to the edge of the Burrow Pit. And so we moved, in my estimation, hundreds of millions of gallons of water out of that front entrance and Quail Lake. So some of the other areas, obviously Terra Alta. This is the retention pond in Terra Alta here. There was impact. There are 2 mobile homes here on this side. They are in a flood zone. And this retention pond overflows into another flood zone that's in the between there and in Kings Lake here. And so this is what that looked like in this particular area here. We were able to once we got Kings Lake down from their flooding, we were able to get this down and and relieve some of these particular homes here. We still have a couple homes without power. Their meters are about 6 inches off the ground. And unfortunately, there's some areas or pockets of areas that are low, and their electrical meters are in these low areas that are 6 inches off the ground. This is May Place, and we did have May Place flooding at 200 May Place. Woodbound is our newly installed pumping system there. But unfortunately, the water came too fast and larger than our pumping system. There are 5 lakes that gravity feed into Woodbound lakes. This is the Woodbound subdivision. That's on East High Banks Road there. It was built in 1984. Again, this was permitted back in 1984 for a 30.68 elevation. But unfortunately, the adjacent homes on the south side are elevation 30 and 31. And it doesn't give a whole lot of space for if you have rushing water. So when we installed this, the St. John's Water Management District allowed us to go to 29 to manage this lake at 29 feet. And it stays at 29 feet. But unfortunately, I got a 1-foot variance. And so we pump about 2.2 million gallons out of Woodbound Lake every day. And unfortunately, the water, and it worked perfectly as designed. But unfortunately, it was too much water too fast. We couldn't pump it out fast enough, and we did have water intrusion of one home in May Place there. And so these are our 4 commercial properties, and I'm sorry I don't have a good picture of the Cairo's prison ministry. But unfortunately, these are all permitted in the 1980s or earlier, and they're all below the road. Yep. And so, Mayor, this just to summarize our damage estimates, we have 11,000 households, and we have 19 homes that, single-family homes and mobile homes that actually have water inside their particular homes. The Kings Lake Clubhouse, again, we count water inside the air-conditioned area. If it got into your garage or got into your lanai, again, these are estimates of best knowledge that we have. Again, Kings Lake Clubhouse flooded because it is actually at water level. And then we had 36 first-floor condominiums over here on Dirksen Avenue on the right-hand side. The Dirksen Avenue had flooded, and their private stormwater system apparently had some problems there. And all the first-floor condos that was built a long time ago, they don't have curbs or anything else to protect those first-floor condos. And unfortunately, they had water intrusion there as well. And so, Mayor, this is what we do after every storm. Obviously, we finish up the debris. We've already moved about 14,000 cubic yards of debris. We should be finished, we hope, by this weekend, finishing up, cleaning up all the debris. But we'll go through our normal process. We'll identify all the areas of weakness. We'll learn and analyze, just like we did in 2004, 2008 with Hurricane Irma and with Hurricane Ian. We'll do the consulting with our government partners, and we'll create the construction concepts, and then we'll figure out what's practical to do and what's not. And so, Mayor, that completes the summary of the entire city. But if you don't mind, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank our staff, our volunteers, and some of our contractors, because the teamwork that was done and the community came together to minimize the damage that occurred in our community. And Mayor, first I'd like to thank our staff.
Absolutely.
They did an absolute phenomenal job. From sandbag operation and assisting residents to the folks up on the top there, this becomes an emergency operations center. They don't go home. They stay here until the storm is done. We don't sleep for 48 hours. We stay up. We stay here. On the bottom left, we put 2 people in the Emergency Operations Center of Volusia County Emergency Management. They handle all the calls and everything else. And when they spend the night there, they leave their families at home. When they leave this Volusia County Emergency Management Center, they come here to manage the Emergency Operations Center here for the next 2 weeks. Our guys that are going out during the storm, they get called out, flooding or trees down and everything else. They're taking front-end loaders. They're moving trees to the side to keep the roads open. And after recovery, we do go out and do the assessments, and our communication teams is putting information out on Facebook, on websites, and everything else. We're communicating as much as we possibly can with specific impacted HOAs and individuals. We're either doing it on site with ad hoc meetings or everything else. But they're sitting over there. Amy Long is our Public Works Director. She's been here 12 years. And Chad Qualls is our superintendent. He's been here 12 years. Richard Villasenor is our engineer and the engineer team, and he's been here almost 5 years. And Sherry's been here almost 5 years as well. Steve Baps, our growth management director, and Liz Bowers, our finance director, has been here, I don't know, 13 years, maybe 10 years. And that's because of your help on maintaining our great staff. They're well-trained, they got great expertise, they got great experience and great execution. And most people think we have a crew of 30, 40, or 50. Our Public Works crew is what, 12? 13 people. Yeah, and 2 admin. And so 13 people oversee, and of course Parks and Rec participates wherever they can and doing the assessments and damage control and everything else. There's some Parks and Rec folks in our emergency management, our emergency operations center. But it's just a phenomenal job with our staff and damaging and limiting the damage that occurred in this particular city. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, guys. Y'all did a phenomenal job. Yeah.
And I would like to express our appreciation to people who rose up from the community to help us through this devastating storm. So I'd ask the Vice Mayor to come down with me. And we've invited you to be here because we wanted to express our appreciation for the things you did. First, I would like to invite Pastor Stortz and his wife, representing Community Church. Community Church has been a dedicated, community-focused presence in DeBary, particularly in addressing food insecurity. Before Milton and throughout the recovery, Pastor Stortz and the church have consistently stepped up to support local needs, from helping fill sandbags, which the pastor did himself for hours on end, to hosting and distributing the Red Cross cleanup kits for the residents, doing some volunteer projects for those who asked for help. Community Church continues to be a valued and steadfast partner in the city, and for this we want to express our appreciation. Thank you so much. And I would like to invite up the representatives of Pepe's Cantina. Though relatively new to DeBary, Pepe's Cantina has quickly become a dependable part of our community. During the hurricane and in the demanding weeks that followed, when our Public Works crews were working 12 to 16-hour days, Pepe stepped up to provide lunch, helping to sustain the team's recovery efforts. Beyond the meals, they brought a sense of encouragement and appreciation. Each bag and box of food came with a personal note of thanks from the Pepe staff. Thank you so much. I would like to invite Marcelo, Nona Maria's Pizzeria. Nona Maria's Pizzeria has a reputation of stepping up during states of emergencies. When supplies of household items became scarce during COVID, for example, Nona Maria's helped our community by handing out free supplies of these limited goods. Their sense of community spirit was evident again after Milton, when they sent over food for our teams working the recovery, allowing them to focus on the critical task at hand. Thank you, Marcelo and Nona Maria's. I would like to invite Jake from O'Leary's Pub. Sorry. O'Leary's Irish Pub has long been a favorite among the DeBary residents and neighbors alike. Known for their generosity, it was no surprise that during Hurricane Milton recovery efforts, the owner stepped up to support our teams as they tackled the essential work of rebuilding. A favorite among our staff, O'Leary's sent over a spread of their beloved staples, ensuring our crews were well fed and appreciated. Thank you so much. And I would like to invite Enhanced Outdoors LLC. Enhanced Outdoors is well known for enhancing the beauty of our hometown through innovative landscaping. When trees fell blocking West High Banks, a key roadway, in the wake of the storm, Enhanced Outdoors team answered the call, helping to swiftly clear West High Banks Road. Their quick response significantly shortened the city's recovery time, allowing the residents to travel safely and smoothly soon after the storm passed. Thank you so much. And I would like to invite D&D Skid Steer Services. On Glen Abbey Lane, an overflow retention pond in Orange City severely damaged 2 homes, eroding tons of dirt into the road. You saw some pictures of it. And the road was completely blocked. Immediately after the storm, friends from the neighborhood called Milton Davis from D&D Skid Steer Services. Within hours, they successfully cleared the roads so emergency vehicles could pass. Their assistance enabled city resources to focus on other damaged areas, and for that we are so appreciative. Thank you so much. And then I would like to invite up Eric Drury from Crush Supply. Finding construction resources to repair damage immediately after hurricanes is a monumental task. Before Hurricane Milton even hit, Eric Drury, owner of Crush Supply here in DeBary, reached out to the city to let us know whatever resources we needed, he would assist. As the storm approached, we requested a front-end loader to move trees and keep roads clear during the storm for emergency vehicles. The same day, Crush drove and parked their front-end loader at City Hall. After the storm and during damage assessments, we discovered the damage to Donald E. Smith Boulevard that blocked all of the residents into that entire subdivision. The city manager made the call and Eric was there within the hour. He ran the backhoe, worked around the dangerous gas line and secured the road enough to open 1 lane the same day. And I'm going to tell you that if we had the city manager calling around to find resources, that could have stretched easily to a 2nd or a 3rd day. A large drainage pipe under Fort Florida Road experienced significant erosion, endangering the safety of that road, and Eric and his team went there, got on site and rebuilt that road base so that Fort Florida Road could remain open. The large amount of water in the West High Banks area caused the damage to the bridge outlet at High Banks RV Park. Stormwater that is normally 4 feet below the bridge roadway rose over the road, damaging the retaining wall and significantly undermining the road. Eric and his team came directly from Fort Florida Road to High Banks RV Park. They filled the void created by the stormwater and protected the bridge and public safety. Eric worked the backhoe again to ensure compaction, giving time for High Banks RV Park owners to repair their bridge. During the construction of the High Banks RV Park, you see a theme here, there was another emergency on Dutchman's Bend. Stormwater from Duke's property had wiped out the road. Eric and his team not only rebuilt the road, but also built a riprap structure to assist in future storms. Finally, the stormwater had damaged Glen Club Road and Stormwater Inlet. With the road severely damaged, Eric and his team secured the inlet and the road to protect public safety under the emergency powers of the city manager. All in all, 5 road and public safety projects in 7 days. Without his help, we would have been a lot worse off. And for this, I would like to present to Eric the key to the city. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess so that those, including very patient young children who are waiting for the reappreciation, can get to bed. And then we will reconvene, starting with agenda item number 1, 5 minutes. Would everyone please return to your seats and we will reconvene the meeting. The regular City Council meeting for November is reconvened, and we are moving on to public participation on items not on the agenda. When I call your name, please approach the podium, say your name and address for the record, and you have your 3 minutes to speak to us. Marcos Salas. Is Marcos Salas here? No. Jocelyn Frost. Is Jocelyn Frost here? Okay. Joe and Martha Skinner. Is either Joe or Martha here to speak? Please approach the podium, name and address for the record.
Joe and Martha Skinner.
Your address?
Oh,
398 North Pine Meadow Drive.
Okay.
Okay, so you said we get 5 minutes?
No, 3 minutes for items not on the agenda, correct.
You're saying the flood is not on the agenda?
That was a presentation. It is agenda item 1 is the minutes of the meeting.
okay, so you have lists.
So just please begin to address us and tell us your concerns.
Joe.
No, I'm the big...
Would you please?
Okay, we're both tired.
I bet.
But anyway, we're located across the street from the Glen Abbey Golf Course.
Yes?
And we had flooding for the second time in 2 years. My husband put up plastic sheeting and sandbags and everything, but then it still comes in. We always call the city when there's a storm event with heavy rain expected and to request having the storm drains cleared. We're always told, well, it's being monitored, but anyway, it's just really frustrating. So we watched the water level rise, the street flooded, our yard flooded, and then the water started coming in. We had 6 inches in our garage. We had 1 to 2 inches in every room in the house. It was better this time than 2 years ago because we got rid of all of our carpet at that time, but it's still very frustrating. Anyway, we've been told that it's probably coming from the golf course. It's like, you know, putting blame. Anyway, they have a pump that's across the street from our driveway, and water comes out of that during heavy rains. And I don't know what we can do. We're told that it's private property and there's not anything the city can do, but we feel that's not right. We just, what? Oh, you're coming back? Okay.
Yes, we call, I spoke with a Richard Velocifor.
Villasenor, yes. Mm-hmm.
And when I called and sent videos in, I was told that that's a private drain pump, egress, ingress, whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay, so water flows out of that, but at the same time, up the road from 1792 coming down towards our house, and from the other direction, the water continues to stream and overflows and comes into our yard, encroaches and goes into our house. And I think it's improper draining. We need bigger drainage,
Bigger storm
openings,
drains.
and bigger, and I think that way you can get more of a flow of drainage. I am over us being told that there's nothing that can be done.
Okay. As you saw, we have all of the elevations and all of the systems mapped, and so I would suggest that you sit down with the city manager.
I'm going to request the city manager and the engineer to come to my house, my property, and have a discussion.
Okay. So noted. Thank you.
And I do want to say that Phyllis was very nice to talk to me about that the other day. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thomas Marshall Sr.
City Manager, Mayor, Council, good evening. Thank you. I've lived in DeBarry at 301 Glen Club Drive for the past 22 years when I built that house.
And your name is Thomas
I have
Marshall
no-
Sr., correct?
I beg your pardon?
Did you say your name for the record? Just
My
say-
name?
Yes, please.
Oh, I thought you said it.
No, I ask you to repeat it. I may not get it right.
I know who I am.
Yeah,
Thomas S. Marshall.
thank you. Okay.
Thomas S. Marshall Sr., 301 Glen Club Drive
Perfect,
in the
thank you.
Glen Abbey subdivision. Again, I have lived in that home for 22 years when I built it 22 years ago. I noticed that the city manager did not have an abatement or prep plan for the water collection in front of the Glen Abbey Club golf course. Now, everybody knows, and I know for 22 years, without very few exceptions, that street has flooded and nothing of any significance has been done to abate the flooding. I'm lucky that I don't have a major damage to my home, some minor water intrusion, but my back porch is always flooded. Fortunately, I have outdoor furniture, so nothing is really damaged. My problem is it's a mess to clean up, and I've been cleaning it for 22 years. And only once, and I believe I spoke to you, Madam Mayor, that you said we were ready and the drains were cleared. That was 2 years ago. And they were. And I appreciate that. But I don't think we were ready. And I know that there are some areas that had unexpected flooding, and I respect them and I appreciate what they're going through. But for 22 years, you have not, and I don't mean you personally, but the council has not been able to fix the flooding on North Pine Meadow. And it's really disgusting. And the other thing, if I may, I know that we're evolving as a city, and we're trying to be a little bit more grown up. Grown-up cities would have someone at City Hall answering calls for emergencies. I got a call, eventually I got some hotline of volunteers, and this is what she told me. I'm going to put your name on the list. We might get to you in 2 days, maybe a week, it may even be a year before we get to you. How do you think that made me feel with my back porch under 3 inches of water? I'm very fortunate to have very good neighbors who come and help me sandbag. At my age, it's very, very difficult to do. But this is just doesn't make sense. We want to be a grown-up city, then we got to do grown-up things and have people on board to at least answer calls and assuage that emergency. I'm getting all frustrated, and I don't want to get angry with you, because I know you're doing the best you can, but you got to do better.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir. Thomas Garrett, name and address for the record, please.
Thomas Garrett, 371 Fox Hill Drive. So I've been in the area since 1989 and have experienced my first hurricane and many more since then. These are truly catastrophic events, and I appreciate the inclusion of what I consider a post-mortem to the effects of Hurricane Milton on the city of DeBarry. I had inquiries, but the presentation covered all of them. I am truly sorry for any loss that my neighbors have incurred, and I am proud of the city of DeBarry for their efforts before, during, and after the storm. Their sacrifices are recognized and appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jay Brown, name and address for the record, please.
Jody Brown, Kings Lake. And thank you, Mayor, for your office and your help when I called in from Massachusetts, because it was hard. I made 130 phone calls that day from my homes in Florida, because I work for the FMO, the Florida Manufactured Owners, and I do the Eastern Seaboard from Duval down to Kissimmee. I have 1,375 mobile home parks under my belt right now, and they're all of them underwater from Milton. 2 years ago, Ian devastated my southern end, and Milton has now devastated my northern end, all the way from one coast to the other. So right now, Kings Lake wants to know, or the residents in Kings Lake, and I am a resident, why did you pump water for 2 weeks from Helene, from Terra Alta, into Kings Lake? Because when Milton hit, we had no more room for the water from Milton. And to correct your numbers, we had 14 house losses. 14 homes got water around them, under them, and wet. We still have one home that is unlivable down on Water Ridge Drive. We have a gentleman that's next door to that house who has no money. He was bought the home 2 years ago. He doesn't have any financial needs to have anybody go under it and even inspect it. I have another lady with me who her house was flooded, carport and everything got wet, and she is still drying out underneath. She's had an inspection, but not everybody can afford an inspector to come out. And I think the city inspectors need to come out and really reevaluate. My understanding was in 2008, when Faye, I believe I have that hurricane right before my time.
It was a tropical storm, yes.
Correct. We lost 9 homes down in the dingle. I call it the dingle, the horseshoe, by the management and by the clubhouse. At that time, they were told, my understanding is, the clubhouse should have been raised 4 to 5 feet. They didn't listen. Not to really rebuild down there. They did. And all those homes also got re-wet this time. So something needs to be done. If we're going to say not to build, we need to enforce that with these mobile home park owners. It's time to get on top of them. It's time to get things done. And I want to know why you pumped over and gave us all that water. And my understanding from Terra Alta residents was that you also, back in Fay, the pumps and everything failed over there and something needed to be fixed. The lady over there told me it never got done. So that needs to be looked into.
I would suggest that you have a conversation offline after the meeting at some future date with the city manager, who probably can fill in all the gaps of knowledge and history.
Absolutely, anytime.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Jane Boyer, name and address for the record.
I'm Jane Boyer, 131 Hickory Stick Court. First, I wanted to say thank you to all the veterans that were here tonight. I appreciate their
wonderful?
service. I had 2 parts real quick. It was just thank you for whoever has drained our front pond, because it was not drained pre-hurricane, and we like to know why, because I feel like a lot of the homes in Lower Lake would have avoided some of that flooding if it had been drained down. The second part of mine isn't flood related. I know that's crazy, but it's school related. I've been battling this probably for 6 years. My husband was almost killed on High Banks Road from a Ryder truck that decided to go down the wrong way and approached him head on. My husband thankfully pulled into someone's yard and he got hit. We diverted the traffic after many years of down to the park, which was working. And then we decided to move it to Donald Smith. Now there's cars parking on the dirt, on the left, on the, I call it the right side of our exit out of the golf course area. You put up signs, no parking. They park between the signs. Okay, now they start to park down the middle of the road on the double yellow lines. I called and made a suggestion, put some barricade floppy things up. They did that. Now the cars are blocking our lane again. So rather than all the resources of police officers, trafficking, emergency vehicles not being able to get through, residents not being able to get through, can we just close the entrance on Donald Smith? Because only 7 cars fit there anyway. So.
Thank you for your suggestion. I think there probably are some issues, but it's not the forum to explore them here.
Okay.
Thank
I'm just
you.
making the
I
suggestion.
appreciate it. I appreciate the input.
Close the access to Donald Smith. There's only 7 cars, and 14, 15, 30 more cars are not obeying any traffic laws there. And then the other issue is to keep our front pond drained in the next hurricane.
Thank you. Kathy Shizmansky. Is that close? Okay. Name and address for the record.
Kathy Schmidt, 488 West High Banks Road. I live in High Banks Marina. And thank you, council, for letting me address you. I live on the northeast side of the property, adjacent to the wooded area next to the River Bluff neighborhood. My home was significantly damaged from the water rushing through that area and the pond flooding. No one has come to my house or asked me or any of my neighbors if we had damage in our homes, and I had 7 to 8 inches of water in my home. I lost nearly all my furniture, ruined my hardwood floors, my air conditioner's no good, and too many personal items for me to list. The path of the water coming through the wooded area created a sinkhole in front of our house into which our truck sank, and we have damage to our truck from that. High Banks did take the necessary precautions. They drained our pond down to the dirt. But for weeks prior to the hurricane, the city or the county, I'm not sure, I saw city on the trucks, had a pump on High Banks Road draining. I know there's been a lot of water, but they were draining all the water in the ditches on High Banks into the creek in the wooded area that feeds the pond that goes out to the river. So therefore, our pond went way out of its banks, and we suffered significant damage from that flooding. And as you showed in the video, the bridge and the road got washed out in our park. The city was very quick to come and repair that. And in my mind, that was like, is that a little liability? They got in here so quick because they knew they were flooding our area by draining into the pond. Maybe not, but that's how it looked to us residents there.
Okay.
A couple of questions, I want to know, is there going to be any compensation for us that had all that significant damage into our homes? And is the city going to take the necessary steps to change the infrastructure to create to keep this from happening again? I can't afford it. This is my home. I live here full time, and we're going to be in excess of $25,000 in damages.
Did you apply to FEMA?
I did apply to FEMA.
Okay.
I got $770, and until I hear from my homeowner's insurance, they aren't going to give me any more.
Okay.
So-
That is generally the recourse for flooding is homeowners
I
and
understand
FEMA.
that,
But thank you.
We did our part, and we still have all this damage.
Right.
So,
Thank you. T.C. Kraus. Name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Kraus, 120 Pine Valley Court, DeBary, Florida. City Manager and City Mayor, we are 10-year residents of Glen Abbey and DeBary. We purchased the property. We were told there was a $17 million installation of drains and pumps to prevent flooding after the 2008 3 hurricanes in which the past owner was flooded. On Monday, the 7th of October, 2 days before the hurricane, I left a voicemail message to remind the city to test the pumps and set up the generators on Pine Valley Court. On the evening of 10/9, the pumps were working and there was no flooding. On the morning of 10/10, the electricity went off at 3:30 a.m. I looked out my back and front window and there was no standing water. When I woke up at 7 a.m., the electricity was off. The pumps were not on, and my backyard and front yard was flooded inches above each door. Some water was seeping in our house, and I tried to keep it dry with towels and blankets, and sewer water came up in our master bath shower drains. The flood waters consisted of fresh sewer and gasoline. At 9:15 a.m., our neighbors rescued my disabled husband, me, and our 1-year-old puppy, along with our important paperwork and pictures out of our side bay window with canoes. We drove to Orange City Hotel, and they did not have electricity, so we stayed with friends. The outside of our house flooded over 15 inches and inside 1 to 4 inches, depending on the room. We were without power for 3 days. Everything that was on the floor was destroyed, including my grandparents' heirloom dining room set. All of our appliances inside out were flooded. My vehicle was totaled due to the flooding. Our flood insurance settled the claim and paid 25% of the total adjuster estimates. Homeowners insurance is still waiting for the adjuster's report. FEMA paid a minimal amount for miscellaneous food, but the remaining claims were denied. I've been talking with a pastor and a counselor daily to cope with the events and the aftermath. If the pump generators had been working, our house should not have flooded. I'm requesting compensated for the 75% of the flood insurance adjuster estimates and $50,000 for the loss of contents. I expect a formal investigation and a new plan for future flooding of my home. At the very least, the expectation is that the City of DeBary will pay for and purchase cost and installation of an aqua fence for the perimeter of my property each time there is a potential hurricane. I will be scheduling a one-on-one in-person meeting this month to discuss the details. And I will be copying this to Governor Ron DeSantis.
Thank you. Your story of flooding is heartbreaking, as all of them are, and I think your meeting with the city is a good move.
And I would like to present this to the city clerk.
That's fine. Sure. Marie Hickey, name and address for the record.
Marie Hickey, 27 Sanford Avenue, here in DeBary. I've been a 26-year tax-paying resident, and I am here hoping to enlighten many of the other tax-paying citizens of DeBary that, for some reason, Mayor and the rest of the councilmen have violated their right to a quasi-judicial hearing for the construction of a fence. So-called, it's a spite fence, but it was so-called a sunshade. This structure is an accessory structure. The city of DeBary has violated the Land Code, Chapter 5, Article 3, Section 5 through 62C. It has also violated the Variance Code, Chapter 1, Section 1 through 8, where when the people came to you wanting to erect this structure, there should have at least been a variance procedure done, where every citizen and taxpayer would have been able to say whether or not they wanted this in their backyard. This is the fence to the back of my yard.
Please go into the mic. It's being recorded. Please turn around and use the mic. Thank you.
The structure that was put up behind the fence. It is 15 feet high and goes about 45 feet wide. There is laws against spite fences. It's illegal for a person to construct a spite fence. Now, I know Mayor Stephen Bapp and Patty Munholland, our neighborhood improvement officer, is well aware of why this structure is there. And I feel that the city should not have violated their own code and made the residents aware that this structure was allowed to go up, because it is illegal. So I don't know why the city of DeBary thinks that corruption and violating their own codes is proper. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Lindsay.
Donna Lindsay, 488 West High Banks Road, Lot 58. I concur with what Kathy was saying. Again, you all forget about us down there. Nobody comes down to see us. There are homes that are tied down, not just not just mobile homes, motor homes or travel trailers. There are actual homes there. And when Ian came, you all flooded that pond. I lost my air conditioner. It was $5,000. You did it this time, and an inch, it would have been in my house, but it has destroyed all of my ductwork. I have to get that replaced at $2,800. You know, you forget about people that far down there. We are all a community. I own 3 homes here in DeBary. I not just live at High Banks Marina. So I'm a longtime resident, and I own homes, but there's no communication between the city or county to High Banks Marina. They lower that down, that pond down, very low, to avoid us getting flooded. However, you all dump all that water in there and don't even let them know so that they can pull the plug. There's no communication. You know, you say you have an easement there, but don't you have the right to tell them that you're going to be doing this so they can pull the plug to avoid the homeowners that are actually, you know, strapped down on the pond to get this, you know, all kinds of, I don't have insurance on it. I'm still waiting for FEMA. This is out of my pocket. You know, I'm on Social Security, and nobody from here or any part of the city has come down and asked if we were okay. Nobody. We didn't get Red Cross buckets. We didn't get anything. And I think that's a shame, because we are your residents. And that's all I have to say. I'm hoping that maybe I can get some kind of reimbursement to help me recuperate some of my funds. I'm not asking for the air conditioner. I'm asking for the ductwork. It all has to be replaced. Thank you.
Thank you. Things like the Red Cross kits were advertised as being available at a central place. So throughout the city, they were available, but you had to avail yourself of going to get them. But thank you for your input, and communication is important, and that may be something in the review of things in the aftermath that we could look at. Jane Boyer is in for a second time, but she spoke on 2 at one time.
She left.
Okay. And we have Brett Mollet. I gave it a go.
Brett Millay, 453 Detroit Terrace. I just want to commend all of y'all, especially the city manager. We do live on the infamous Dutchman's Bend. The whole road got washed out. And within 4 days, we were back in our house, or able to get out of our house and back in. So I just want to commend everybody here, whoever had a role in it. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Donald Bowerly. Name and address for the record? Sure.
Donald Bowerly, 488 West High Banks Road. So just wanted to talk today also to thank the city for a lot of the stuff that they did to help us out, the city manager. We had significant water flow through the pond in the park. The pond in the park, I don't know if a lot of people know, it does take all the water off of High Banks Road. I don't believe the pond was ever designed for heavy water flows, and we do have flooding events here and there. It's not the first time that the bridge is washed out, but just having the city come in and bring the dirt in, brought the dirt in, spread it out, and they were able to stabilize the outflow, which was extremely helpful. We're right now having engineers and architects work on the repair so we can make a permanent repair there. But I do believe at some point, we'll probably have to look into, how we can maybe better improve the situation down there, because these storms seem that they're not going away and may increase in how often they happen. So, but yeah, it's terrible to hear about some of the losses here today. That's just absolutely terrible. A lot of people have lost a lot of stuff, so I hate to hear that. But yeah, but you guys are doing the best that you can. And, well, again, do appreciate the city manager coming down and helping us out. Yeah, so I think at some point we do need to kind of look at how we can make improvements to the pond and to the drainage off of High Banks, so that we can, try to ensure that we don't have these types of issues. I don't know if it's increasing the size of the inflow or the size of the outflow, maybe deepening the pond, because we can drain it all the way down to the dirt, and it's High Banks for a reason. So we don't have as big of a problem with the water table. When they drain that pond down, it can get pretty close to the dirt. But I don't know if they're increasing the depth or increasing the size, maybe increasing the size of the outflow and inflow again. Maybe that would make improvements, but it was going full tilt there for a while. It looked like Niagara Falls going off there. I've got some video, but yeah, that's all I could say.
Thank you so much. Joe Scalera.
Joe Scalera, excuse me, Joe Scalera, 212 Cedarwood Court. Hey, I just want to say, I understand the problems some of these people are having, and in the aftermath of all this, but I also want to say I've been a resident of this community for 33 years. And contrary to, what we all think sometimes, I just wanted to thank our city manager, city council, and the emergency team. I think you guys did a hell of a job, and I just wanted to go on record for that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Christina Carter.
Hello.
Hello.
Christina Carter. I live at 490 Detroit Terrace. I'm part of the Dutchman crew out there, Dutchman Bend. So when the hurricane hit, we all, as a community, ended up meeting at our community dumpster because some people knew that we were unable to get down our road anymore. We have one way in our road and one way out. So when that road was washed away because of the storm waters, we were pretty screwed. With the help of many people reaching out to any of our resources, we were able to exit our community by going through Blue Spring State Park. There was a lot of muck out there. It's the west side. People got stuck. Some of us ended up going back to get the people that were stuck to bring them out. Blue Spring State Park Marina said that we would be able to park there along with High Banks, which we're very appreciative of. At that point in time, we reached out to anybody, including Carmen, to ask for assistance of our road. We even had some of the policemen come out because we could not have any emergency services to anybody. I'm actually an essential worker. I was on Hurricane Team B, which meant that after the hurricane was over, I was expected to go to work, but we were only allowed to return to our homes via boats, and that's with the assistance of the neighbors that have boats. So we thought that it would be a month before we would be able to get out, to get electricity and stuff like that. Carmen was an intricate part of getting crushed supply and out there so that we could actually get Duke down the road to get not only our road repaired with his assistance, but also Duke down there to get our electricity back on, where we thought it was going to be a month or more, and all of us taking money out of our pockets for the repair, we were able to get back to our lives a lot earlier. So I want to thank everybody that was involved in that, from the marinas to the council, city manager, police officers, everybody, Crush Supply. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie Wetzel.
Hi, Charlie Wetzel, 614 East Old Mill Drive. Also from St. John's River Acres off of Dutchman's Bend. Just wanted to say thank you to Carmen and the city for helping rebuild our road. I'm the treasurer for our little community of about 25 or so homeowners. We collect a voluntary road dues of only like $240 a year from each resident. Not everybody pays. We usually get $4,000 or $5,000 a year that goes to buying some loads of fill when we have big holes and sometimes running equipment. We usually spend it every year. and there's no way we could have even attempted to tackle the washout that we all saw tonight. So again, thank you very much for all your help. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Beth Good, name and address for the record.
Hi, Beth Good. We live at 512 Quail Lake Drive. And I would like to go back to Carmen's presentation because we absolutely did have water intrusion of 4 inches throughout our house. And we're not the only ones on Quail Lake. Our 2 neighbors adjacent and one 90-degree angle around the bend. I spoke to Carmen the day after the storm, informed him that we had to leave through the windows at 3:30 in the morning and crawled out with our cats and went to neighbors up the hill because we didn't know if it was safe to drive. Since then, we found out we left for Pennsylvania because we had to have remediation, so they took 2 feet of driveway all the way through our house. Our total claim is going to be in excess of $150,000. In the middle of a kitchen remodel, so we already were in that state, so we have to keep everything juggled. And we're fortunate we do have flood insurance. But our issue is that during Irma, we also had raw sewage come up through our shower. We luckily have a step-in shower with about a 4-inch lip. I came down here and pounded on City Hall because at that time they said, oh, there'll be somebody here around the clock. I got somebody on a cot while they were bucketing out raw sewage from our shower because I called 911. They said that wasn't an emergency. And I said it will be if somebody lights a match because it's raw methane coming up here and the whole block will blow. There's obviously a drain problem. Ours was not. He said it was overflow from a pond. I beg to differ that we had a collapsed drain. And they relined it while we were in Pennsylvania on an exit. The APS guys told our contractor that they were relining a collapsed pipe. So I want resolution. We're putting a ton of money into our house. We love our community. We love our neighbors. We want to be a good part of the community. We pay our taxes. We pay our HOA fees. I want to know that this isn't going to happen again. I want resolution. I would like to know, and again, I reiterate the fact that nobody from, if it weren't for Joan Flowers, called me. I made phone calls to the HOA management, City Hall. I got the runaround for 4 days. And if it weren't for our HOA president, who I have a direct connection with, I still would be waiting for a callback. I find it totally insensitive that nobody came around to our community. My neighbors are selling. We also had a 90-year-old couple that moved to California to be with their kids that lost the sale of their home because of the flooding issue. And I find it insensitive that nobody has come out to speak to anybody on our property. The 4 houses, we are the lowest ones on our lake, and we always take on water. So I asked the APS guys that were in front of our house the other day, did you check before you relined the pipes that they're structurally sound?
They did.
Well, they couldn't answer that question.
Because they weren't the ones with the camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the bottom line is, yes, we're appreciative. Yes, I know you guys did the best you can, but there is an ongoing problem with our 4 houses, and it needs to be addressed. We have not been able to be in our house. We are in we're in a rental property for another probably 2 weeks. So I know some people have it a lot worse. We're luckily we have flood insurance, and hopefully we're covered. But Carmen, you did tell me right out of your mouth, I made a hard decision to turn the pumps off from 3 to 6. That came right out of your mouth. And you said, I didn't want the guys to be out in the 60-degree or 60-mile-an-hour plus winds. So somewhere along the line, there's misinformation, there's finger pointing between the HOA and the city, and that has to stop. Just like the United States, we got to come together. It's not fair. We all pay our taxes and we pay our HOA fees, and we need to come together. Thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Drake.
Oh, goodness. Just so sorry to hear about everyone still suffering from Hurricane Milton. It's devastating. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight, though. Thank you. I'm Kimberly Drake. I'm at 636 East Old Mill Road, and again, we're Dutchman's Bend. Our family wanted to thank Carmen Rosamonda. A large section of Dutchman's Bend was destroyed by the stormwater from Hurricane Milton, and his decisive action ensured our community's safety. Thank you, Carmen. We would also like to thank our local propane delivery man, Dallas, who was at our home the day of the hurricane, filling up our tank to ensure that we were ready for the power outages that were going to come. Dustin Allen, the park manager with Blue Springs, he evacuated several of our neighbors in our vehicles. ensuring safety and continued access to work and school for our family and our neighbors. Don Bowerly also supported our community by providing river access to High Banks Road. Eric Drury and the people with Crush Supply, God bless them, also worked quickly and immediately to restore access to our homes. Duke Energy was also ready. As soon as the road was repaired, we had power Sunday night. That was amazing. It was absolutely a gift to see the people of DeBerry step in so quickly to help us. We are so thankful to you, Carmen, and the citizens of DeBerry and the businesses of DeBerry for their kindness and dedication to doing all that they can to help their neighbor. We truly saw a beautiful example of people loving their neighbors as themselves. So God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Tees.
Hi, I'm Rob Tees, 10 Swansea. Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you for allowing me to make my quick remarks here. I'm here in support of all the effort that was done during this, I understand to be a 500-year event that is beyond the imagination of planning for the city and all of the infrastructure. But particularly, I kudos to Carmen Rosamunda for his leadership, dedication, and efforts through this disaster. I had occasion to meet with Carmen like 4 days after the hurricane, and he shared with me that he'd only had 3 hours of sleep over the 4-day period because he had been out there making sure that everything was being done and being done properly. So I wanted to thank everybody that worked under Carmen, but without his leadership, I'm not sure that we would have gotten as much done as we did. So thank you.
Thank you. Richard Coloni, name and address for the record.
Richard Coloni, 333 Hazeltine Drive. There's a lot of successes and there's a lot of failures with Hurricane Milton. I jotted down a lot of notes of things, and our empathies is for all the homeowners who have gone through some type of difficulties. I'm not ignoring that fact. But I heard some numbers today that, being a numbers guy, makes some sense to me. 11,000 homes approximately in DeBerry. We state that we lost maybe 20. Residents say we have other issues, so let's just say we had 50 homes that had a problem. Do the math. 11,000 homes, 1% would equal to 110 homes. So we had 50. That's 0.5% of the homes that were affected in the city of DeBerry. What does that mean? That means 99.5% of the residents in DeBerry survived. When I talk about survive, by the way, God bless, no one died during this storm. Is that true? Correct me if I'm wrong. That's a blessing in and of itself. So yes, we have 20, 30, 40 homes that need to be addressed. But to have 99.5%, any grade, any test, any college exam, any license exam, we would be celebrating. But the weight of that 0.5% is heavy, and it needs to be looked at. Hindsight always gives us 20/20. It's easy for folks to point fingers and place blame on someone. That's normal human behavior. None of you serving today were a part of the decisions or the design or the implementation of the stormwater systems in my community, which is DeBerry Plantation. But you are now in charge. I know that the city manager has stated will review all of the systems and develop enhancements or alternatives. I ask that you give him the funding needed to do that review. I believe in this council. I believe in it for several reasons. One, in today's day and age, you are politically diverse in your backgrounds. That adds some great unity. I've watched you over the last several years. I like the way you think. I like the way you work collaboratively. I like the decisions you make, for the most part, never all. The city manager in this last year, 2024, from the Florida City and Council Management Association was given the honor of a Professional Management Excellence Award. The FCCMA is looking at 479 cities. That's a lot. And they choose our city manager for that award. Not only did the Florida State do that, the Volusia County of Leagues gave him the Executive Officer of the Year. He did not achieve that by himself. He achieved that because of the support of each and every one of you. You can take proud and pride in holding up that trophy, but so can I as a resident because I voted for you. And so can my neighbors behind us because we're members of this city. The entire city can be proud of those achievements. We are a team. We are a community. Do we have issues to address? Yes. Please give him the strength, give him the permission to find solutions, bring those solutions back to the community. We can address them at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Danny Allen, name and address for the record.
Danny Allen, 140 Fort Florida Road. I'd like to thank the mayor and council for giving me the opportunity to speak. Tonight, I'd like to address concerns that regard social media. I see a lot of posts out there with incorrect information. One of them with the country club, the front entrance up there, people posted they did not run the pumps. Well, the pumps don't make any noise, they're underwater. You don't hear the pumps. So all they hear is the generator, but maybe since the power wasn't out, the generator's not gonna run. So maybe the person who made that post just assumed the pumps weren't running because they didn't hear noise like in the past. So maybe that's why. Then I see another post on Donald Smith Road. It said the emergency management water line that the city pumps through there busted and caused all that problems. That's not true. There's so many items that are not true that people post, and there's probably a lot of people that showed up tonight that would not have showed up because they're misled by misinformation. Of course, we know in the front, y'all didn't design that. No, the engineers designed all the stuff, and St. John's approved it. The council had nothing to do with the engineering. The ponds are not engineered to take 15 or 20 inches of water in 10 hours. And that's why you have problems everywhere. And people say, well, you should have pumped lower, which you all know St. John's only allows you to pump the level of the lake at a certain level. And you have to follow their instructions. So it's sad that all the people had with flooding the problems, but I want to thank you for the job you did. And sometimes people should be up here thanking y'all and all the workers that worked many hours instead of trying to find blame. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on to the approval of minutes, agenda item number 1.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular city council meeting, October 2nd, 2024.
Second. Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The next item on the, are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to this agenda? Hearing none. We have a public hearing. The city has requested to de-annex 57.95 acres from the Rivington Community Development District.
Good evening, Council. Stephen Babgrove, Management Director. The current situation is what governs community development districts. It's Florida Statute 190. CDDs allow an alternative method for financing, managing services, community issues within certain neighborhoods. Our Rivington community does have an established CDD, which first came into existence in October of 2018. I believe was amended recently about October of 2023 again. Originally 2018, amended 2023. For geographical awareness, the portion we'll talk about tonight is something that borders Alexander Island, which is adjacent to the portion CDD wishes to de-annex from its property. The proposed ordinance would amend the CDD and de-annex the western 7.95 acres. Because the city council established the CDD, any additions or extractions from the total CDD would have to be approved by you. The area to be de-annexed is primarily wetlands, really accessible only by foot, and a zoned resource corridor, which would be consistent with a wetland type environment. This is a sketch map. This is the portion to be de-annexed, which is adjacent to Alexander Island. As I said, not accessible really by anything but by foot. Therefore, it meets all the consistencies of the Florida statutes or Land Development Code or Comprehensive Plan. So it is recommended that the City Council approve the first reading of the ordinance to amend the CDD and de-annex the western 57.95. Of note, this will not change the densities or intensities of the Rivington PUD, has no impact on that. It's only the portion of land that the Rivington would govern, would not change any densities, just as a note. The way ahead, after first reading, we have a second reading scheduled, and currently this ordinance is advertised a little differently, but it is compliant with advertisement of 190-005, which requires like 4 consecutive weeks, which is a little odd. So you may have seen this advertised in the newspaper. We also have the Rivington represented here if he wishes to speak or address the council. Thank you.
Okay. Did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Council. I'll be real brief. Dean Barbary, Reader Communities, 5850 T.G. Lee Boulevard, Orlando 32822. I appreciate Steve presenting this for us. The goal is to de-annex it out of the CDD with the intent is we're going to donate the land to the city to add to the park. So if there's any questions, we're happy to answer those as needed.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not. Can the
we need to
city,
read the ordinance.
before you do a vote?
Let's read the ordinance. Excuse me.
No problem. Ordinance number 15-2024, an ordinance of the City of DeBary, Florida, amending ordinance number 12-18 as amended by ordinance number 09-2022 to grant the de-annexation petition for the Rivington Community Development District pursuant to Chapter 190 Florida statutes concerning certain property within the current boundary of the district, which is further identified on Exhibit E, being donated to the City of DeBary for the Alexander Island Park addition, providing for severability and an effective date.
Thank you very much. I did not see the ordinance in the agenda. Councilmember Sell, any questions or comments?
Well, thank you. In this day and age, I'll take every acre somebody will give us. That's just more area for wildlife to thrive in. And as you know, land doesn't grow on trees around here. So I appreciate the gift. Christmas came early.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Thank you for your patience. And while it's adding almost a third to the park over again, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
No questions, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
I also want to say thank you. We appreciate it. And the fact that it's so adjacent to, or it's right on Alexander Island, it just enhances everything that we've got for that project. So I appreciate everything you're giving to us and look forward to it.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I want to say thank you as well. I think that it does make a lot of sense. It is part of a conservation area, and as part of the city ownership, we would manage the entire parcel, and that will, I think it's just the right thing to do, and I appreciate that you identified that and were willing to offer it and make it available to the city. If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of Ordinance 15-2024, the proposed ordinance to be de-annexed 57.95 acres from the Rivington CDD.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Under new business, this item number 3, city manager is requesting the city council affirm resolution number 2024-17, declaration of state of general emergency due to Hurricane Helene. City attorney, would you read resolution?
Yes, Mayor. Would you like me to read all 5? Of
I
those
was wondering if we need to do this over and over again. If you would read all 5 resolutions, and then perhaps we could consider them as a whole.
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 2024-17, a resolution of the DeBerry City Council providing for declaration of state of general emergency with regard to Tropical Storm Helene, providing for emergency authorizations and powers for the city and city manager, providing for duration and providing for severability and an effective date, and a resolution number 2024-18, a resolution of the DeBerry City Council providing for declaration of state of general emergency with regard to Hurricane Milton, providing for emergency authorizations and powers for the city and city manager, providing for duration and providing for severability and an effective date, and resolution number 2024-19, a resolution of the DeBerry City Council providing for declaration of state of general emergency with regard to Hurricane Milton, providing for emergency authorizations and powers for the city and city manager, providing for duration and providing for severability and an effective date, and resolution number 2024-20, a resolution of the DeBerry City Council providing for declaration of state of general emergency with regard to Hurricane Milton, providing for emergency authorizations and powers for the city and city manager, providing for duration and providing for severability and an effective date, and resolution number 2024-21, a resolution of the DeBerry City Council providing for declaration of state of general emergency with regard to Hurricane Milton, providing for emergency authorizations and powers for the city and city manager, providing for duration and providing for severability and an effective date.
Thank you. I do have a question, city attorney. Can we do one vote or do we do 5 votes?
One vote.
One vote with the numbers specified. Okay. City manager, did you want to say anything about these? These are fairly standard protocol, which we implement when we have an emergency. And then we will ask if there's public participation and any comments.
Yeah, as stated in the agenda item, the state of Florida, the governor issued a declaration of emergency. So did Volusia County, and then we follow. And this enables, and some of the expenditures in the next agenda item, it allows me to do emergency repairs to protect public safety. And that's why you saw some of the things, the roads that got repaired and everything else to protect the public safety. And it enabled me to have the freedom to get those things done, to open up roadways, to protect roadways from collapsing, et cetera, et cetera. And so all those were, as you saw, were areas of need and to protect the public safety. So all of these have that particular purpose, and we've been diligently working on all of these items for repair. So.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation on agenda items 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. Councilmember Sell, any questions or comments?
None.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Good work.
Councilmember Stevenson?
No questions, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
I'm okay.
I signed them, I have no question. I would entertain a motion to, and please specify all 5 resolutions if you offer a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2024-17, 2024-18, 2024-19, 2024-20, and 2024-21.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So moving on to agenda item number 8. Per section 15 of the purchasing policy on exigent circumstances, the city manager shall file with the city council a statement certifying the conditions and circumstances requiring each such action for purchases over $5,000. City manager, Liz Bauer's going to present. Good work.
Good evening, Liz Bauer, Finance Director for the City of DeBerry. Before I get started on this agenda item, I wanted to give an update from the September 18th, 2024 City Council meeting on an agenda item that was presented about pump rental costs due to excessive rainfall from several tropical systems. As you may remember, on August 2nd, the city started pumping down James Pond, Half Moon Lake, and various other locations. The rental costs for those pumps were $41,896. and this demonstrates the city has been diligently executing its stormwater plan on a continuous basis. For the current agenda item, per city code and Florida statutes, the state of emergency resolution for Hurricane Milton signed by the mayor on October 7th gives the city manager purchasing and contracting authority to protect health, safety, and welfare of the city and its residents. Also, Section 15 of the city's purchasing policy gives the city manager authority to make purchases under exigent circumstances to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the city and its residents. This agenda item is intended to communicate costs incurred as a result of Hurricane Milton through the end of October. Over the next few weeks and months, more costs will be incurred and communicated to City Council in a similar fashion. On the list of expenditures we'll go over, some of the costs include citywide pumping, which will be an ongoing cost we're not through with yet. As of the end of October, we're up to about $122,000 for various pumps around the city. Donald E. Smith Road repair was about $73,000. This was the more permanent fix done by Dale Beasley. We had various washouts around the city totaling about $50,000 to repair. Parks and Rec had costs for shade covers and windscreens about $18,000. And the parks had also some trees down in specific parks that cost about $8,000 to remove those trees. There was some significant road damage around the city, and Crush Supply was called in to fill a lot of those, which totaled about $98,000. And in addition, we had some minor expenses for such things as gutters, sandbag operations, damage assessments, and as of this report date, the total is $380,861. There will be many more expenses to come. This would include debris removal. We're estimating to be about $1 million based on past experience. The Bernasek washout, which you saw in the photos, approximately $220,000 to repair that, and there's many other items still under review. So funding, as we've talked about many times, hurricanes are expensive, and that's one reason why we maintain our reserves. Hurricane Milton may cost around $2 to $2.5 million by the time we're done. The general fund reserves are going to pay these costs, and we will seek FEMA reimbursement, which may take up to 3 years to receive full reimbursement for eligible costs. It's recommended that City Council accept the statement certifying the need for purchases for exigent circumstances related to Hurricane Milton and approval after the fact.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
Carmen, in the darkness of night, you've been very busy with our credit card.
Yes.
You've been running around buying a lot of things.
Not because I wanted to, because we had to.
I understand. This is a learning lesson. I'm glad we talked Jim out of dipping into reserves and spending all our money when we needed it for this hurricane. So, yes, I think I learned something that I'll take with me. And I'll save it for my ending comments. Thank you, that's all.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Thanks for the itemized list here. This is great. I'm going to harp on, I love our reserves, and I want them to be healthy. And I know that was a joke. But, yeah, just imagine if we had one of these each year on top of intermittent smaller storms that do have costs of their own, not $2 million worth, but $250,000 here, $400,000 there. You run out of $8 million really fast. And then you're at the speed of the federal government to try to reimburse you, which is not a slam dunk. So there's a lot of uncertainties that revolve around the necessity of maintaining healthy reserves. And we do an excellent job of that. I'm not trying to say we don't, but this is why I was a little touchy about millage this past year, because storms are going to get more expensive even if they don't become any more dangerous or any more destructive. The cost of the economy will continually increase with inflation, whether it is accelerated or just the normal 1.5% to 2% federal reserve target. We can't keep up with that by playing with a slim checkbook, and that's something that we need to be very diligent about.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes, thank you. I'm also glad that we ended up keeping our reserves. This storm was unprecedented, and I appreciate how well you communicated with us. I felt like the entire process, I was kept updated. I was able to update my neighbors. Seeing these items on this itemized list confirms the amount of work that you were doing, and I pretty much knew about most of these items before it was presented, so I have no problem with this. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a great synopsis of what actually happened or is still happening. I know we're not done. We're never done. The storms, you know, they say a 5-year, 100-year storm. Well, we've had 2 of them in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you know, going back to Ian. And so I think they're going to stay intensified with what's going on. So I think this is something good to have, and I give Carmen total authority to do whatever he needs to do.
Thank you. And I as well appreciate the accounting and the outlook and the total package of information is appropriate at this time, and it helps us as a council to move forward and understand where we stand. If there's no further comments, I would entertain a motion.
Yes.
Yep. We are approving his purchase, we are certifying the conditions and circumstances.
I'll make a motion to accept the statement certifying the need to purchase for exigent circumstances related to the Hurricane Milton and approval after the fact.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. And this moves us to member reports. Councilmember Sell?
Yeah, I have a few things to say. Perspective. 2 years ago, we went through Ian. Deltona had hundreds of homes flood. I went to their council meeting. They had 400 or 500 people come to their meeting and complain. We had one home get water damage during Ian. We had 4 people show up at our meeting right after a hurricane. 2 of them complained about speeding on Shell Road, and one was Mr. Thomas Sr. He was the one who had some water damage.
Yeah.
It was a different type of storm. Every one of these hurricanes seems to have a personality. They're their own individual. They come at us at different angles. They do different types of damage. Normally a hurricane, I worry about wind damage and trees down and falling. Well, this particular hurricane dumped 33, well, in total, in 40 days, we had 33 inches of rain. I Googled how much our average rainfall is in Volusia County, and it was 55 inches. So in 40 days, less than 2 months, we got about 70% of our average rainfall. I don't know if there's an engineer, if you gave him 5 years to prepare for Milton, if he would be able to guarantee that no home would get water intrusion. I don't know if that's possible. If we gave him a blank check, I'm not sure that's possible. We played the game of moving water from A to B to C to D, and all along the St. Johns River water management, it'll kind of strap you to how much water you can put in that river, how low you can drain a pond, a lake. All of that needs to be revisited, I think. This is absolutely a learning moment for everyone in Florida. This was a storm that, we'll call a 500-year storm, and maybe it happens again next year. Now what's it called? So kudos to everyone involved out there in the middle of the night, trying their best to prevent water intrusion or flooding, or people running into a lake out there where it used to be a road. Just keeping people safe. Nobody died. That's a win. I think this hurricane that we had, I think we had a ton of wins, and we had some losses. and we have some learning moments that I think we, as a city, as a council, we're going to try to adjust. I think we'll spend money smartly when it will do the most good. I'm positive of that. I don't know how much money you could spend to promise these folks that their house won't flood again. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if the next storm comes along and doesn't dump 50 inches of rain. If that thing hung around for another hour, now you're talking 40 inches of rain. A lot of cities in the surrounding area, I mean, the hospital was underwater, the post office in Orange City was underwater, the Orange City City Hall is unusable, and they lost police cars and motorcycles. I'm not trying to point fingers, but I think every city that got impacted by Milton has learned something. Now, how they react to it, I don't know. I'm confident we will react to it correctly, if we can, swiftly. I don't know, everyone's pointing fingers. There are some things in our community where, you know, there's some internal things between the city and some neighborhoods, and I think, you know, I was asked questions that there was no answers for the questions I got. I puzzled over it for a long time. And I don't know how more prepared the city could have been. We did more than we did for Ian. We had more pumps than we had for Ian. And Ian, we had one home get water intrusion. Milton, a couple dozen. I don't know why. I don't know if there's an answer for that. We are updated by Carmen 2 weeks before our hurricane pops up on the radar. I'm lowering this, I'm doing that, I'm lowering, I'm doing this, I'm lowering that. Maybe what we get communicated to, maybe that needs to go on the City of DeBerry page, maybe. We're lowering, you know, just let you know we're doing this, this, this. If I thought for a second that Carmen purposely flooded somebody's home, he'd be fired. Seriously. I know some people said we got accolades, we got trophies, they don't mean anything. At the end of the day, one home flooding is too many, but I don't know if we can prevent every home that flooded won't flood again. I know I would never promise that. Again, kudos to the restaurants, the businesses, some of the citizens out there, everyone that was part of the solution. Amazing job, absolutely amazing. I don't have an answer for a lot of the questions I got. It bothered me for a while. But at the end of the day, when you saw the carnage, when you saw the numbers, I don't know how you engineer your way out of that. Some of these storms are just bananas. They're unexplainable. You know, now it comes from left to right. Sometimes it comes up. Sometimes it goes right to left. We were in a bad spot. I mean, I looked out my window one time and it looked like people had a fire hose opened up on my roof. It was an amazing amount of rain. I saw the hospital. I saw videos from that. The lady was filming it every half hour. She was looking out the door, the entrance to the hospital. And we lived through and witnessed what a true flash flood is. You say 1 minute there was nothing, the next hour your home's getting water in it. Flash flood. That's what a flash flood is. Now, I've seen other cities in Carolina and Tennessee, whatever. That's a flash flood on steroids. It wiped homes off their foundations. Lives were lost. So we're fortunate in that aspect. But we made it through a storm that I hope is not normal. I really do. I don't know. It's just a learning event for us. I'm not going to tell anybody who's to blame and who's this and who's that. I think lawyers are going to be involved, unfortunately, and I think the city's going to have to deal with that on a one-by-one basis. I do think we did and prepared better than we did for Ian. I can proudly say that. I don't think we neglected anything. I don't think we didn't clear out a storm drain. I don't think we didn't go to a neighborhood and put priority one over another. Carmen was out there in the middle of the night, in the middle of a hurricane, because he cares. He lives here, part of the community. So that's all I got.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Couple items, but first, the morning after Milton,
once it got his carpet lifted, dehumidifiers running, and his furniture out of the room, coming down the curb. I walked around the corner to Donnelly Smith because I saw the pictures on social media. It was alarming. Carmen was there. There's an active gas line. I was like, oh, is your microphone on? Darn it. All right, so after Milton, I tore apart my toddler's bedroom because he got some water intrusion through the windows. It's the north side of the house. The water was insane. My neighbor had his electric rain meter. It said 22 inches in that 6-hour period of time, obviously locally, but it was, it sure sounded like that was the case overnight. So after I got his room torn apart, he was upset. I walked around the corner of Donnelly Smith, saw the pictures. And the water coming out of that overflow from the failed Unit 19 pond, it looked like a water slide, a couple feet in the air. There was the active gas line. There was the very bent emergency pipeline. It was not a pretty sight. Talked to Carmen. He had it under control. Right in the afternoon, we went back. Crush was already filling it. This was probably around 2 or 3 after the kids had a nap. Brought them down there in the wagon. I've never seen any government, or even heard of any government entity, fix a road like that in 12 hours. It was open by 6. That was quite the response. I got to see it, witness it firsthand. So I'm very thankful to the efforts there, because there was a serious emergency there that there was no ingress or egress from the community. Anyway, some fun stuff. Trunk or treat at Gateway and trick or treat at City Hall. Excellent events. Kids loved it. Just very festive. Everything was run very nicely, very safe. More importantly, attended earlier in October, attended a Volusia Opioid Mitigation Funding Advisory Committee meeting. We put together basically the expectations for the next round of grant funds. I think we're doing $3 million again because we didn't reach it last time. I think the meeting's on the 7th, but the applications are due November 20th. That's for nonprofits. I'm trying to convince them to open it up to for-profits because I think there's some entities out there that do provide great levels of care that would be qualifying. The committee has gotten the county to offer an abbreviated application for equipment requests. I think we might be able to get something for the firehouse, the new fire station, because those Lucas devices, the automated CPR devices, very expensive. So that's something perhaps we should explore a little bit more seriously. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes, thank you. I don't want to follow up on each of these residents' requests tonight. I think that we can do that individually, but just in general, you know, this storm was devastating for our entire state. And I feel like as a state, as well as a city, we have to look at our infrastructure as an entire state, as an entire county, to look at these connections between different entities, whether or not there needs to be improved maintenance schedule on some of these infrastructures, the county lakes, even some of these HOA lakes, that they could be improved to a better level that might give us a better chance for future storms if they're at this magnitude. I know that several years ago there was a resident who tried to start up a citizens emergency response team, and I'm wondering if that might be something that we would look into. It would help with the communication between the cities and the HOAs, these private communities, and possibly the response also. So again, just great job with everything that you did. It was bad, but I know it could have been a lot worse. And some of these entities and the communication and planning and improvements moving forward, hopefully we don't lose sight of what needs to be improved and looked at again. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Butland.
Yeah, just a couple things real quick. As far as the storm goes, the only thing I can say is I worked this EOC here.
You did.
I made sure the staff had lunch every day, whether I got it picked up, delivered. I just made, but they were above and beyond what could I have asked for any staff. And thank you, Stormwater, Amy,
Right.
Chad, your crew, Chuck, everyone that, I mean, we had one that got hurt and he didn't hear answering phones the next day.
Yeah.
He was on light duty. So I appreciate you all. I think you guys were outstanding. So I want to say thank you and thank you and thank you because it was very well done. I also attended coffee with the congressman, disappointed because there was no coffee.
Yes.
But I did the trick or treat. I got to hold a couple babies and take some pictures, and that was a lot of fun. And the kids came, and I do have a busy couple weeks coming up with other meetings, and I'll report on them when we get back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did find this evening was a very good recap, Carmen, a little long. But I think that it was important for us to hear the residents who were so badly affected. For me, if I did a takeaway over all of the input, I would say the one area we may want to revisit is communications. There were some legitimate concerns about feeling that they didn't have access to communications. Then there's also, may help the residents to understand that there are communications that they will have to access on their own. With 21 square miles, it is not likely that with our level of staffing, even including all the electeds, that we could be walking neighborhoods over 21 square miles. The list of the neighborhoods that were affected was very long in your presentation. It was here, it was here, it was here, it was here, it was here. During the crisis, I know that you and/or staff were in the street addressing things. So some of it will be expectation. It isn't, we like the small town feel, but we are no longer small enough that it would be an expectation that people would go door to door and say, how were you affected or were you not affected? That is probably not going to happen in this day and age. 24,000 people, 21 square miles, it's unlikely. But it is fair to say, are there better ways to communicate? Are there things we could embed in our system of emergency operations that would enhance the feeling that residents have as far as their ability to tap city staff or knowledge? So I think that's something that we can Monday morning quarterback over the next period of time as we look at the systems themselves, as you've said we will do, to see if there are improvements. And I would agree that in some cases, we cannot create the ability to capture, store, and/or move this huge volumes of water where there is no end destination for it. They're just,
Can't be done.
in the current environment, dealing with structures and engineering from decades back, there isn't the capacity to hold all this water somewhere in certain circumstances. And we saw that when the unthinkable was happening, when our borough pit was filling up, which no one ever expected it ever would. It's only been half full ever in as long as it's been used. So I do think there are lessons to be learned, and we have some time to do it. And I think communication is one area that we might think about looking at a little harder as far as, we do a fabulous job with putting things on social media, I'm not saying that, but residents need to feel that when they're in distress, they can reach somebody somehow. So that would be my comments, and thank you to everyone for such hard work, and a result that I think is about as good as what we could get with the infrastructure that we have. That would be it for me. City Manager?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. Just a couple of comments. As I said in my presentation, I did misspeak about the pump being down for 2 hours. It was my misunderstanding, and I apologize for that. Our pumps never went down, and you can see our superintendent and our public works director nod their head.
Yeah.
Quail Lake pumps operated perfectly as designed. Our DeBerry Plantation front perfectly as designed, woodbound, perfectly as designed, no name, perfectly as designed. All our automated systems did not go down. They operated continuously based upon the settings that are supplied by St. John's Water Management District. And I hope they shake their head there to confirm exactly what I just said. And that was my error, my bad. I'll also speak for our engineer, is that sometimes you just can't design things
Exactly.
to be able to handle storms like this. We've had 3 hurricanes, wet tropical storms or tropical waves, and we were completely saturated when this hurricane came through. As I showed you with the FDOT retention pond, the other retention ponds that overflowed did exactly the same thing. So what you're saying is FDOT pond should be deeper changed than everything else. I don't know. And that's the question to ask is okay, is this a one-time event? I've never seen that pond overflow. I can tell you the Hampton Hills pond, I've never even seen that even be filled. Some of these particular areas have just never seen those capabilities, and you can't plan for them if they never happened before. And so every retention pond that I showed you from Orange City to Hampton Hills to West Ridge, everything else, they all exceeded their berm, the boundary, and they all did. So there was a common denominator, and that was just too much water too fast. And when it's consistent like that, where all of our infrastructure is being overwhelmed, whether it's a private system or a public system, it just one clue is just too much water too fast. And I don't know if you can build things. When I talked to Richard and the engineers, and what are some of the practical applications, we are currently engineering West High Banks, but again, we're looking at a 60-inch pipe to go down there. That project's going to be $5 to $7 million. Will that solve the problem through High Banks RV Park? Maybe. But that's what we're looking at, is you'll be able to walk inside the pipe, and that's how much water will go down there. It's these things that we are engineering that you just don't anticipate ever coming if you never experience it. And so we did, and I'm very confident that we absolutely performed as best as we possibly could with the resources that we had and the technology that we had and the infrastructure that we had. We limited damage as much as we possibly could. And I apologize for all those that we didn't have the foresight to prevent some of these things, but nobody predicted this type of water coming this fast. But we gave everything we had. You know, there's a lot of communication that goes on, Mayor. I've had numerous calls with property managers to put out communications to their residents. I've had numerous meetings with HOA presidents all throughout the city. We have 21 HOAs. And so we put communications out. We have an emergency email system. We have that we send emails out on basically on a daily basis. I encourage people to sign up and register for that, and so to keep more informed. But again, it's on the individual too to keep themselves informed as well, and that's a key element. But I'm very proud of our staff. They were absolutely awesome, and I don't think we could have done any better with given what Mother Nature threw at us. It was overwhelming, stressful, tearful, but they did a hell of a job, and I really appreciate everything they did. So, one other thing, congratulations to you and the council. Our amendment did pass, and I think that's a tribute to you guys as a group on how well you work and how trusted you are in the community. Is that they see and trust the city. It was 64% to 37%. Pretty overwhelming, and that's a tribute to you guys for all the work that you do and how consistent you are and how professional you are. So that's a tribute to you guys. So thank you very much. Sorry for the long thing. I just want to make sure that the information gets out there because
For sure.
I only get one chance to
say
present
it.
all the facts, and everything else gets miscommunicated. So.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
I just want, I got text from my husband from across the way. Pancake breakfast, November 17th, 7:30, Florence K. Little. Be
Thank
there.
you. City Attorney, anything to report?
Just briefly, Mayor, Council, there's been some allusions to litigation and challenges and lawsuits. When you have an event that is an act of God or a force majeure, if you look at a contract, typically those contractual provisions allow a party that would otherwise have to be performing or has an obligation to not be held to that. But this is not a contract. This is we're a local government, and there are standards of when you can be held liable, when you cannot, or when you should not. From what I've seen, and based on all the communications I've had with Carmen, and all of the stormwater pond issues and the parties involved, it seems to me the city has gone above and beyond what its duty is as a governmental body. Doesn't mean that you solved the problems and took care of things that no one could expect or should expect. So I think if we do get some challenges or contests or lawsuits, I think we're going to be in top shape. You ought to be really proud of what the city has done and how it's done it. So from a legal standpoint, I think, we may get a challenge, but I think it's going to be they're going to have to push the envelope. I think we're in pretty good shape.
Thank you. Hearing nothing further, we stand adjourned.